Yo, what is crackerjacking, everybody? Welcome back to another fantastic episode of the Nance Cast. What's up? Thanks for coming out. Glad you all could make it. How are you doing? I hope you are all doing well. What's up? This is, of course, a continuation of the reading of George Bataille's The Accursed Share, joined by Sean and Mikey, the homies. We're starting part 2 of The Accursed Share. So that's what this is. Before we get into that, I just want to put, a quick little capstone on part 1, and then mention a couple things, and then we'll get right into the episode. Part 1, we just finished it. General economy. This is where Bataille introduces these concepts: general economy, restricted economy, and the accursed share. Short and sweet. The general economy is just seeing all things, life, activity, technology, all the stuff that we do as not only interconnected, but interdependent, and just part of this kind of planetary metabolism. Everything that happens on Earth is part of the general economy, and we are all subject to energy coming from the sun. The sun radiates energy down onto the Earth. Life utilizes that energy to grow and to reproduce, and whatever it cannot use to grow or to reproduce must be dealt with. Now, this surplus that must be dealt with is the accursed share. So seeing things from a general point of view, seeing the general economy kind of allows you to understand pressure, excess, buildup, and notions of like utility versus sovereignty. So the restricted economy, what we have under capitalism and many other social orders before capitalism, it's all a restricted economy. And so everything is kind of funneled into this idea of utility, accumulating and hoarding utility, which becomes wealth, which becomes power. And when we do this and we're only focused on accumulating and hoarding, we will have catastrophic moments where this surplus generates a pressure that can't be contained. And, we have explosions, things like wars, things like the world wars, violence. This also happens in much smaller scales, social ills, violence, all that stuff. So the general economy is seeing how everything is interconnected and interdependent, and how we must reckon with the accursed share, this buildup of energy. And the restricted economy is this ideology or this system or this framework or the social order that doesn't allow us to see the accursed share, the excess buildup, much less do anything with it. The reason that's important is because it kind of shifts us to a structural view and allows us to think structurally as opposed to just thinking independently, and as opposed to just thinking like, I'm going to be this individual enterprising person or whatever. I am going to accumulate. I am going to hoard utility, wealth, power, and I'm going to enact my will upon the earth. Bataille helps us to see that, it's not really all about that, man. It's really all about like what you do with all the metabolic activity, all this surplus of energy, because it's there. But if you deny it, or if you're just constantly disavowing it, it's going to lead to catastrophic moments. It's really important. There's also a lot of resonance with, just the other day, Mikey and I had a conversation with Cadell Last. He wrote The Global Brain Singularity years ago, his kind of doctoral thesis. And then he wrote Systems and Subjects and Real Speculations recently. But we had a conversation with him about global brain singularity. And he's using this kind of cosmic history, this material accounting of life and biology and culture and this tension in the biocultural agent or the biocultural animal, which is the human. I see a lot of resonance between cosmic history and general economy, and so I like it a lot. So that's one of the things I wanted to mention. Shout out Cadell last. Shout out Philosophy Portal. Go check out that conversation. Check out the book. If you haven't, if you need a copy of the book, I know a guy. We can make that happen. Just let your boy know. But yeah, it's one of the things I wanted to mention. Check out Cadell. Check out Philosophy Portal. Check out the conversation, The Dangerous Maybe, YouTube, Substack, Patreon. Check out Philosophy Portal, YouTube, Substack, philosophyportal.online. This month, currently, Todd McGowan is doing an intro to Lacan. They've been doing a lot of really cool stuff with Marxism, with Lacan. This coming month, they're going to do something really interesting with like the clinic and theory with Lacan, taking clinicians and then taking theorists and doing something cool. I believe Edie will be running that. So that looks really interesting. So if you're interested in that at all, go check that out. Make sure to check out Sean No Future on Substack. He's doing a lot of interesting stuff. And I also wanted to let you guys know, if anybody out there likes furniture, if you like having things in your living space that are artisanally crafted, that are one-off specimens of form and function, both utility, but also aesthetic kind of love and joy and beauty, and also struggle and strife. Put it, the creation of a work of art is not all sugar drops and bubble gum. There's struggle involved with it as well. But if any of you out there are interested in furniture, let me know. I know a guy who has a one-off piece they're looking to get rid of. I actually think I'll take a photo and put it up in here. It looks really, really cool. Like I said, it's kind of crafted with love and also with strife. It's a one-off piece. And it's interesting. So I'm going to put a photo in that, or in this edit, so you all can kind of see. It looks really cool. Like I don't know what kind of wood it is, because I'm not a wood guy, but it looks fucking dope. And just wanted to shout, to put that out there, in the world. If you're looking for handcrafted furniture, I happen to know of a piece that will be needing a new home soon. And it is handcrafted by an actual human being. So yeah, it's not like, you can expect to get it for free. But if you're interested, let me know. I'll let them know. I'll put up a photo so you can check it out. And hopefully there'll be some progress made on that soon. Also, just wanted to toot my own horn for a second. A few weeks ago, I wrote a short little piece called The Accursed Share as Destiny, Drive, Desire, and the Subject. Subtitled How I Learned to Stop Accumulating and Love the Butthole Surfers. I believe that's the title of this piece. Put that up on Substack a few weeks ago, coinciding with the first reading, or the first in this series of reading The Accursed Share. Short piece. You can read it in a minute or two. And I have been linking it in the description of all the videos. But give that a read. If you haven't already, and if you're interested in Bataille, or even if you're, interested in my reading of Bataille, because like I've said, a few times, I think my reading of Bataille is a non-standard reading of Bataille. And I think, the core thrust of The Accursed Share, is actually, like I was talking with Cadell, very similar to this kind of biocultural tension that Cadell talks about. So check that out. Check out The Dangerous Maybe, YouTube, Substack, Patreon. Check out Philosophy Portal, YouTube, Substack, philosophyportal.online. Check out No Future on Substack. And do all the other things, hit all the buttons, leave all the comments, whatever platform you're on. If there is a comment section or a like button, or a 5-star review, or, you can also do 0 stars or 1 star or whatever, but do all those things. and strap in. This episode, this episode's a funny episode. We read. We also talk a lot in this episode. So yeah. Anyway, thanks for coming out, folks. Thanks for sticking around, and don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after these messages from our Lord and Savior, Robo Cthulhu.
Hey, what's up, dudes? What's up, everybody? It's me, Robo Cthulhu. Yeah, make sure you hit all the buttons. Like and subscribe and share. Make clips, share the clips on your social medias. Do all the things. And, I'm making a list. I'm checking it twice. I'm gonna find out who's been down here nice. And don't worry, I'll be here before you know it. Sooner than you realize.
All right, America, what's happening? What's happening? Good morning, Vietnam.
America.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Nancast. And that's right, folks. You guessed it. I'm pretty sure you probably guessed it based on the title of this episode or the thumbnail or episode art of this episode. But just in case you're blind and you can't read and you just click buttons randomly on your phone, you have arrived at the Nancast, and we are continuing the reading of George Bataille's The Accursed Share. And tonight we are starting part 2. This is where we get into some of the stuff, some of the sexier stuff with Bataille. A lot of people think Bataille is a real sexy guy. He's really weird. He likes sex and human sacrifice and stuff like that. And it's true, he likes that. But that's not all he does. But this is where that starts. We start talking about human sacrifice, dead bodies, blood, war, and all that really cool, edgy shit that you guys all might be coming here to see with George Bataille. So yeah, I don't know. We talked a little bit before we started this recording about some of the timely events in the world going on right now, and while they very much do fit into this conversation about Bataille and human sacrifice and excess, I don't know. I don't know. Do you guys want to spend any time on that, or do you want to jump right into?
Before that, hold on. Before we get started, I just have to say, Sean, you're going to be very proud of me. I have a good old American wheat beer tonight, brewed right here in Kansas City. So no IPA.
I don't like wheat beers, dude. Wheat beers fucking suck.
I love my Boulevard wheat. Come on. This is a KC classic.
I can't drink that shit anymore. I can't drink beer at all. It's crazy. Like, I love beer, but I can't drink it at all. It's like last time I had something with like wheat in it of any kind, it was like someone was stabbing me in the stomach. It was horrible.
Celiac.
Shit.
Yeah. So I can't drink beer anymore. Fucking pretty lame.
Bummer.
Yeah. It didn't manifest till like fucking recently, but anyway, whatever.
Can you drink like liquor?
It seems like fucking whiskey is supposed to not have any gluten in it, but it makes me feel like shit. So it's crazy.
What about
bourbon was my thing too.
That's why you went to wine, right?
Yeah, that's why I'm drinking. That's why I'm drinking this shit. You can't see it. I like how the glass vanishes into the eye, but it's there.
You should just drink Everclear. Just take 3 shots of Everclear and then you're good.
I tried. I took a shot of vodka to see what would happen, and I was fine. So, but bourbon, no bueno.
I mean, just to state the obvious.
Oh, is that like Japanese or Korean or something?
Korean?
Korean vodka. Yeah. It's like their vodka.
Oh no, I don't think I've had the Japanese one. What's it called? But I haven't had
sake.
Sake, yeah, I've had that.
Yeah,
but,
that's like rice wine, I think.
Yeah. Anyway,
So-
how did we get on this shit?
I just want to say that, it's funny that it's taken me this long to connect these dots, but I just think if we ever talk about Bataille's story of the eye, Sean, your background, I mean, okay, so what you were alluding to, Nance, is the conversation we just had off camera. I guess it was on camera, not public
Offline.
conversation. Yeah, offline. About the Epstein files and the shit in the Epstein files, and it's looking more and more that he is on some like gourmet Brother Lynch type shit. And okay, some people might not get that reference, but it looks like this guy is just eating people from what his own emails indicate. So
I still think it's like it has to be like an innuendo. Like, I mean, it could be. I don't know. But I was like, part of me thinks that it has to be like an innuendo for something like almost as horrifying and disgusting anyway. So it might as well be eating people, but who knows? But I haven't really looked into it, so I don't know.
I am wearing the hoodie that I bought at GameStop when Fallout 3 came out. And in Fallout, I don't even know when that was. That had to be like 15 years ago, 20 years ago. I don't know. But in Fallout, there's this book that you pick up. And there's actually a character that sells, it's like weird iguana bits. It turns out to be human, but there's a book. It's called Tales of a Junktown Jerky Vendor. And it's like a story about a cannibal, like a guy who kills people and roasts them up and cooks them and turns them into beef jerky. And then he sells you human jerky and he tells you it's iguana bits. But yeah, would like the shit that we know he was doing, would that be worse than eating people, or would eating people be worse than the stuff we already know?
I just think it's all at a certain point, it just gets on almost the same level of evil where it's
Yeah,
like, what?
Yeah.
I think so.
It weirdly doesn't matter if he was eating people in a way or not,
I mean,
But then again, maybe it's like if he is eating people, then it's like,
No, I think there's a threshold you cross where it's like, okay, if they cross that threshold, they'll cross all the other ones.
right.
Yeah, it's like, when does like a single grain of sand become a pile of sand? Like, it's like that thing. Like you kind of cross a threshold and then you're just qualitatively in a new world.
I mean, if you can get peer pressured into like fucking, you didn't start out a pedophile, but you got peer pressured into pedophilia, like there wouldn't be any, that the door would be wide open. There wouldn't be any way to stop, right?
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you do anything?
Right. No, and so here's the question. So Bataille in this section we're starting on tonight goes into the Aztecs with human sacrifice and all of that. And so you start thinking like, well, is this thing going on with the elites where they do these horrendous things to people? Is this some kind of a morbid capitalistic modernist version of human sacrifice in something? The idea, some people say these people worship Moloch. I mean, this is part of Pizzagate, but they worship old ancient deities. And
even if it's not completely literal, like even if it's like OG Rose was talking about human sacrifice, in that we keep setting up a world that is doom for our children and grandchildren. Like, how is that not human sacrifice? They have to pay for our fucking stupidity.
Capitalism already eats our children. So with just like a particular instance of it happening literally, while it's horrifying to think about, it's also like, no, it is true. Capitalism eats our children. Like, capitalism does run on human sacrifice in this way.
That's why Adrian Johnston puts this. That might be Moloch. I'm not sure. But
and they're cannibalizing motherfuckers because like not even just them, but like the people who like robocall you, like sometimes those people are fucking slaves in Malaysia.
A lot of the
And
time
sometimes
they are,
those people, if they can't fucking work enough, then they get kept in a room and their organs are slowly like Zizek talks about this.
Yep.
In an interview somewhere. I don't know if he's written about it, but
That's
it's
why
like
I always try to answer my spam calls because they're humans too. When they're robots,
yeah, dude,
it's bullshit. But when they're humans on the other line, answer, be like, hey, yeah, man, have a good day. It matters. But
so look, I mean, should we say what the reference? Okay, so because you mentioned the Fallout thing with jerky, but we haven't talked about the jerky. So in the Epstein emails, and these have been verified as authentic emails, these were not, the other stuff included, which, private tips that, from a tip hotline. No, these are verified Epstein emails. And from the thing I saw, there's about 400 of them that are about jerky. And I mean, I guess, there's a video I watched on it earlier. I'll just give you the name of the video. It's called Was Epstein Eating People? And based on the coded language, I mean, this dude is like talking to all these other elites about jerky and, oh, did you receive the jerky was so delicious. Oh, then he's mad at somebody because he's like, you didn't prepare my jerky. And the guy was like, oh, I thought I had 2 days off. I didn't realize I needed to cook. And I will make this right. I'm so sorry. And Epstein's like, I don't understand how this could happen. Jerky's the only thing I eat now. There's nothing else in my diet. And I have to have the jerky. And then there's all these, thank you for the gift of the jerky and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, all right, these motherfuckers aren't eating Slim Jims. Now they might be eating a Slim Jim. Well, that's a shitty joke. I admit it.
That is a horrible joke, dude.
It was. But I'm just like, I can't help it. Like, because that's the thing. People don't get, like, shitty jokes half the time are ways to deal with fucking terrible situations. And this is a weird thing about our situation where some people say you can't joke at all. Because if you joke, what they don't get is making shitty jokes like that are a way to fucking deal with it.
It defuses the
and maybe it's
bomb.
disavow.
I think it might be disavow, but it also defuses the psychic bomb. Like if we really sat with that and allowed the reality of that to sink in, we would fucking go mad.
Yeah, because I don't want to deal with this is disavow in a sense, even the way we're talking about it, because like you said, the real impact it should have on us is just an unconstrained outburst of.
We should all be up in the streets right now with pitchforks.
The real impact should be to open the floodgate of the fucking real. Like it should, it's like
absolutely.
But like what I keep thinking about as I'm reading Disavow is that like this is the structural necessity. Like it's not a moralistic point. It's like this is how we have to be perverts almost. Right? Yeah.
No, and I
this disavow thing is a coping mechanism.
Like in disavow, when like talking about like activism as a type of disavow, like people who engage in different types of activism, like they're doing disavow, but they're also doing something that is probably important. Like, so disavow isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's not this moral thing that must be avoided. It's just a fact about the structure of us and the world we live in today. And it's something, if we can become aware of when and how and where we're disavowing and how it might be intensifying based on our media environment and our screens and shit like that, like we can regain some agency and some control and stop disavowing everything all the time. But the point is not never disavow. You would be driven fucking insane. It would be like H.P. Lovecraft. It would be like an encounter with Cthulhu, with the Elder God.
Well, it's the same with fantasy, right? Like we think Lacanians are like anti-fantasy, but in a way we're not, because like what the fantasy does is shield you from having constant encounters with the radical otherness of the other. Like you can't function if like we're all about the encounter, but it needs to happen in the right time and place. And like if you're just in that mode where everybody is a fucking alien to you, you can't live like that. So you have to cover it with fantasy and then with ego identifications. Oh, you're just like me.
Yep.
Because you like Fallout too.
Yep.
And so it's a coping thing. So here's the thing though. I mean, look, if we're going to talk about Epstein on some level in relation to Bataille, here's the question I guess I want to pose first. Because somebody can read Accursed Share and they're not getting Bataille. They're not getting the dude. This is a very kind of theoretical. Yeah, they're not getting that Bataille. They're not getting the Bataille who wrote Story of the Eye. And they're not getting the Bataille who like wanted to engage in human sacrifice and
Acid, like all the cool, sexy Bataille.
So the thing is, what do you think Bataille, if we could zap him here right now, have him in the Zoom chat, what would he say about Epstein? Is he the type of dude who would condemn it, or would he be sitting there going, I want some of that? Like, was he what do you think of him as a person?
Bataille with Acid, his cult where he wanted to murder somebody.
But with consent.
That's the thing. Like Bataille was a weird guy. He was into weird, edgy shit. He was fascinated by sexual partialisms and sexual fetishes. He was fascinated by all this death and like all this weird shit. But he also like lived through the world wars. Like he was like, hey man, fascism is not good, and like being mean to other people is not good. Like I think ultimately Bataille would condemn it because it's not consensual. And like he with Acid, with the cult, like he wanted someone to volunteer for murder. It's not like he just wanted to go cut someone's fucking head off to get his rocks off. Like, I don't think he was as gross or creepy or perverted even as maybe some people might think just when you look at his work. And I think he would see Epstein and the kind of long procession of Epstein-like figures that we've had throughout our lifetimes and before our lifetimes as a necessity of the restricted economy. Like when we're disallowed, when we are unable to become sovereign and kind of engage in waste and expenditure and kind of manage the metabolic activity of our own life and dispose of our own accursed share, that goes into capital, that goes into this restricted economy. And you'll see this excess still exists, and it's even intensified and kind of compounded because it's like psychically sucked from all of us, billions of us, into this group of maybe thousands of people. So yes, it's going to be excessive. Yes, it's going to be, he talks about the homogeneous and the heterogeneous, the sacred and the profane. But all that happens in the dark. All that happens behind closed doors, so that the logic of capital is still the predominant logic of the day. Like we still live in this world where it's like, yeah, you work hard and good things happen to you, and you can invest and you can save up your earnings from your hard job, and you can multiply that utility and you can save it up, and then you'll buy a house and buy a car, and you'll be like, it's the fact that it happens behind closed doors is precisely why it's happening right now. Like if we were allowed to engage, like we were talking about carnival in South America and Brazil, like for a week, everything goes batshit. Everything goes topsy-turvy. And it's like, oh yeah, let's have sex in the street and let's get drunk and, let's talk shit about the king.
Well, it's the purge.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably the same logic behind
same logic.
Yeah.
The people who live in New Orleans are fucking wonderful.
Sure.
And why? It's because they have carnival. That's what Mardi Gras is,
Yeah.
It's like,
No, and I mean, it show that is what inherent transgression is at its purest. Let people have a moment where the rules come down. They can engage in basically whatever they want. I mean, obviously some of these are more restrictive than others. But yeah, it's like have your explosive moment, and then everybody can go along for the rest of the year or the time period, because they know they're going to get that release.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, look, just growing up with our, dads and granddads, I mean, was rock concerts. It was mild shit. Even if they knew like, oh, I'm going to go get drunk at the bowling alley this weekend. That seems like, oh, yeah, you're going to compare that to Mardi Gras. Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
It's just a scaled down, less intense version of it. But whether it's a weekly thing or it's a once a year thing, if you can let people have this sense of freedom where their libidinal economy can explode, they can enjoy in a certain way that they typically can't enjoy, it gives them a sense of freedom, which allows them to actually conform to the oppressive structure that they live in all the time. So this is Zizek's insight into ideology. Let them have these moments so as to better control them.
Yeah. I'm actually looking up right now in a different Bataille work, Death and Sensuality, Erotism and Death, where Bataille is talking about transgression. And he says a simple line where he's talking about transgression, and he says transgression completes the rule. So similar.
That's a good line.
And I wish I would have pulled it up earlier, but it's in Erotism and Death. I think it's in the first chapter. Anyway,
send that one to me. Like that's one I'd like to have. Like that's a great,
But like
that's where you're right. This is where you're like, Bataille saying Zizekian shit before Zizek himself says it.
Yeah.
And he's probably one of the only philosophers we can say that about.
Yeah, absolutely. Barring Hegel, maybe.
Yeah, but I don't know. Well, yeah, but I mean, like on this, the function of inherent transgression.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like Bataille is seeing excess and the deposition of excess in an interesting way, and it results like the accursed share is excess. And then death is this kind of horizon that once you transgress it, the social is actually opened up to you. But also prohibition, like transgression completes prohibition in this way where, we all need to blow off some steam. So if it's small scale, let's go to the bowling alley. Let's have a few beers. We know we shouldn't be drinking. Maybe I'll flirt with the waitress, maybe I'll play grab ass, whatever. Like you're doing something excessive.
But there's also, there tends to be a ritualistic dimension to it.
Yeah.
And like, okay, so, in my essay, Wage, Labor, and Jouissance, my two examples from jobs I've worked, at the bar, it would be the nightly ritual was to make fun of all the customers after the doors were locked. Okay. At another job, everybody's just sitting there doing very brutal, unrestrained ball breaking, making jokes at each other's expense, right? But these are ritualistic forms of enjoyment that actually sustain the space.
They bond the society together.
They do.
It serves as a pressure relief valve.
So if you want... Oh, go ahead, Mikey.
No, I was just going to say, so if you want the relevant cinematic example, it's Eyes Wide Shut. With this orgy party of all the elites, people in power that Tom Cruise accidentally stumbles upon. And that's the thing with inherent transgression, be it, making fun of customers or Eyes Wide Shut. Point is, it has to be swept under the rug. Only the people who participate in it can really talk about it, and they don't really like talking about it with anybody outside their circle.
Again, we don't talk about Bruno.
You guys
go ahead,
Bruno. Sean. I was just gonna say, do you guys think that Zizek's communism, like when he talks about communism, do you think that he imagines that there is still inherent transgression in that post-capitalist world, that this is just part of symbolic order no matter what, right?
Yeah. Because the point is, he thinks that this type of jouissance is the glue that holds a community together.
Yeah.
And the point is not to try to have one without it, because it's not going to work. It's to try to have one that doesn't have Eyes Wide Shut inherent transgression, or how the lynchings functioned in the American South. Like, it's much rather to have, the bowling alley jouissance be, you know,
Well,
the
and
default setting, then
Bataille, like on that excess, on that accursed share, like the general economy versus the restricted economy, when in the general economy, the expenditure of excess happens out in the open. And it's actually life affirming and it's pro-social. In the restricted economy, waste is always disavowed because the commanding logic of the restricted economy is accumulate and hoard utility so you can maximize, so you can climb the ladder.
That's such a good point.
Yeah, that leads to the world wars. That leads to all this stuff. And so Bataille's keen on this too when he's talking about the heterogeneous and the homogeneous. When you're still able to do it out in the open, like
what we want potlatch.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the example. That's the example. But potlatch in the sense of like, no, it's much better to have these out in the open moments where everybody consumes and feasts and whatever. And, you know, there's this moment. It's carnivalesque in a sense. Like,
dude, this is why I hate the fact that skateboarding is in the Olympics now. Like when I was a kid, skateboarding was a place for people like me to go. We didn't really fit in anywhere else. It has an extremely low cost of entry. There's almost every other sport. You have to buy equipment. You have to train. You have to go place. Like it's institutionalized. Skateboarding is very, very low cost of entry. And so it's a place where it's like the island of misfit toys. We can all go. We can all meet up. But because we're engaged in an activity, we still form a type of pro-social grouping. Now that it's in the Olympics, people have to transgress against it, and skateboarding is actually getting worse for it being mainstreamed. And it's, I mean, there's also the hipster in me that's like, oh, I was doing that shit back before it was okay. But no, like weed. Like I was just thinking about this the other day. I was talking to somebody about smoking weed, and I don't smoke weed. I eat edibles from time to time. But back in the day, like, that was a symbol of like, I'm a cool guy. I'm going to go smoke weed. I'm going to make a joke about smoking weed, or I'm going to like reference smoking weed. And that was like a little bonding thing that you could have with someone else because it was prohibited, but also everybody knew that a lot of people did it. And it was one of those soft taboos. Like when we live in this society that pretends like there is hard delineations.
The legalization of marijuana was so much better as a fantasy than as a reality.
I know, but like it's like that's a phantasmatic world. Like that's a world that can't exist. You can't have black and white. You can't have good and bad. There's always going to be a gray area. There's always going to be fringes, and the polite, well-to-do mainstream world can't reckon with gray areas, can't reckon with fringes and undeterminate quantities.
But isn't this an instance where pleasure is better than jouissance? Because at the end of the day, it's so much better that people can just go get some fucking weed if they need it, to help them, and because it's decriminalized, workers can use it to deal, especially, manual laborers can use it for pain.
Yeah.
And, there's all of these, but it does de-eroticize it. But I think sometimes it's worth it.
It's absolutely worth it. But simultaneously to this kind of like integrating of the fringes, we're also staying home more. Like this goes into our conversation about the loss of third spaces, the privatization.
Yeah, because you can go smoke weed and watch Netflix.
Yeah, we're not spontaneously generating new fringes. So while we're kind of trying to expand, society is outwardly expanding and incorporating the previous fringes. Society is no longer expanding, and we're starting to suffocate. We're starting to strangle ourselves. We need something to transgress. We live in a super egoic world where everything is possible. You can do it. Whatever the fuck you want to do, go out and do it, motherfucker. Do it on TikTok live. Put it on Instagram. It doesn't matter. There are no rules. You can be whatever you want to be, and we're all dying because of that.
And look, if jouissance is gained through transgression of a limit, doesn't Epstein and the capitalists in Squid Game, isn't this what happens to people? Like, look, I keep seeing whether it's, Kyle Kalinske or any, like, but I think they make a good point, which is like, okay, is this not a testament to why obscene amounts of wealth is bad for you as a person.
Straight up.
Like, you need limits to be even a semi decent human being, and they live beyond prohibition. Like, there's nothing to transgress because there's nothing they can't have. They can buy. Dude, when Epstein was first caught, this fucking like sweetheart deal that he got,
straight up,
which was, dude, this deal, what's the guy's name? Acosta, some shit like that. This dude gives, like, nobody gets a deal like this.
Mhm.
And that's because, like, even if you're doing the worst thing imaginable, you have enough money, no consequences.
Doesn't matter.
Hence, no transgression.
Yep.
And I don't know. I'm like, man, you leave a human being, you put them in a position where they can have anything, do anything, and nothing affects them negatively. Yeah, it's a mechanism to make a monster.
Their soul atrophies.
Mhm.
We need the interplay between, the yes, which is kind of super ego, and the no, which is prohibition. We need that. That's constructive of who and what we are. It's this tension. We are this thing that navigates the tension. And if you take away the tension, then we become dead objects, monstrous objects.
We become the tyrannical man. I'm working on something with disavowal, perversion, and Plato. With Plato's tyrannical man. I think that shit. There's a lot there between like perversion and that. But
Can you find a way to do a neologism of one-dimensional man and tyrannical man? Is there a way to?
No, I'm just going to call it the tyrannical pervert. I think is already the title. So I think that's pretty good.
I think we should find a way to talk about dinosaurs and call it the Tyrannosaurus Rex and play on like Rex as king and like this tyrannical man is like the lord of his own little solipsistic kingdom.
God damn it. That's better than Slim Jim.
Are we going to snap into one of those guys? Ooh,
it's like, I was having the conversation with a couple coworkers, and even when I was like, I'm going to try out the most terrible joke I've thought up in a while. And I did it. A couple of them giggled, and then one of them just across the boo.
What is it? Too soon? Come on, guys. Come on, guys.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't no, like, because that's the thing. If you really try to sit with it and let it impact you, it's like, so I just wrote a thing. I mean, maybe the greatest image of like a super egoic figure is the newscaster.
Yeah.
Like, just pure super ego, pure disavowal. Because they never show any real signs of being impacted by the terrible realities they report. And and that's what's cathartic about the speech and network.
Yep.
Like, the dude finally is like, nah, fuck it. Let me actually respond to this shit as a person. And the only response is to get mad as hell.
They really do seem to enjoy the like story about the kid being fucking crushed in a car or whatever the fuck,
It's because like, they have to stay chipper no matter what, because they have to pivot to some fucking story about or now in sports.
Yeah, you can't just sit with it, because then you would need like, you can't really give it its due. Not in that format. You can't. So it's like you have to enjoy it in order to be fun, which is what we have to do at work. We have to enjoy being there somehow so that we can be functional enough to continue to be there. Like, you can't just go to work and be like, I don't want to fucking be here. Everything sucks. Like, if you do that, you won't survive and everyone will hate you.
Yeah.
Like,
the funny thing is, there are moments where everybody kicks into it collectively and we're all like, yeah, fuck this. Let's all just like go back to bed.
Yeah. And if you're around exactly. Yeah. If you're around a lot of coworkers and like you're away from the observation of the boss, then you can sometimes have that moment.
Becomes, inherent transgression. That itself serves this role to kind of rebuild your morale and reconstitute your spirit, so you can go back and face the doldrums of work itself. Like, that is restorative.
Dude, I think
The obligatory
that's the
smile is the
enjoyment.
thing of capitalism.
Dude, I think more than anything, that is the enjoyment that made me, anytime I ever had an opportunity of like, hey, have you ever thought about management? I'm like, no, I would lose that catharsis.
Mm.
I wouldn't be able to hang out with like the fucking peons and be one of them and then just like talk about how everything sucks.
It's the worst
If you're
position.
management, you have to be like, everything's good, guys. And some,
Yeah, but
on
here's
some
the thing.
level, you know?
It's the worst position because
Yeah,
you're
absolutely.
still a peon to the capitalist.
Yes, exactly.
But
even if
the
you're a
other
fucking
peons
CEO,
can't stand you.
even if you're a fucking CEO of a fucking major corporation, you're
Mhm.
still performing that role for the shareholders.
Mhm.
You know,
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And so, the managers are in the loneliest position.
Yeah.
So, okay. Should we read some of
Yeah,
this?
We should probably do that. Yeah.
let's read a bit, and then we'll go. So, part 2, the historical data 1. There are, I believe, 3 historical data sections. The Society of Consumption. Sacrifices and Wars of the Aztecs. Society of Consumption and Society of Enterprise. I will describe sets of social facts manifesting a general movement of the economy. I want to state a principle from the outset. By definition, this movement, the effect of which is prodigality, is far from being equal to itself. While there is an excess of resources over needs, meaning real needs, such that a society would suffer if they were not satisfied, this excess is not always consumed to no purpose. Society can grow, in which case the excess is deliberately reserved for growth. Growth regularizes. It channels a disorderly effervescence into the regularity of productive operations. But growth, to which is tied the development of knowledge, is by nature a transitory state. It cannot continue indefinitely. Man's science obviously has to correct the perspectives that result from the historical conditions of its elaboration. Nothing is more different from man enslaved to the operations of growth than the relatively free man of stable societies. The character of human life changes the moment it ceases to be guided by fantasy and begins to meet the demands of undertakings that ensure the proliferation of given works. In the same way, the face of a man changes if he goes from the turbulence of the night to the serious business of the morning. This serious humanity of growth becomes civilized, more gentle, but it tends to confuse gentleness with the value of life and life's tranquil duration with its poetic dynamism. Under these conditions, the clear knowledge it generally has of things cannot become a full self-knowledge. It is misled by what it takes for full humanity, that is, humanity at work, living in order to work without ever fully enjoying the fruits of its labor. Of course, the man who is relatively idle, or at least unconcerned about his achievements, the type discussed in both ethnography and history, is not a consummate man either. But he helps us to gauge that which we lack.
Okay. So, what do you think the main takeaways are of this?
I just want to reread a sentence real quick. The character of human life changes the moment it ceases to be guided by fantasy and begins to meet the demands of undertakings that ensure the proliferation. I can't fucking talk. Proliferation of given works.
Projection. I think this is talking about spirit. This is talking about the human soul. This is talking about how the character of human life changes once we start projecting. But if that projection becomes total inframing, then we lose out on the other things that aren't necessarily productive, the other things that aren't directed back into just trying to grow, but the things that are done just for the sake of themselves. So play, love, art, aesthetics, beauty, joy, stuff like that.
I'm gonna fucking I think like, is he already gesturing there towards like things as an end in themselves? I think there's like a connection there with Mikey you were talking about a few weeks ago, infinite drive. I think that I've been thinking about this a lot, that like I think that when we like appreciate things for themselves, that love we have for them, it's like we have to, as loving beings, we have to almost believe on some level that there is eternity. You know, that this will go on forever. That's what we want. When we love something, we want to be with it forever, or with them forever. You know?
I think that,
Like whether or not we literally believe in it or not, it's like we are projecting into eternity.
I think that is I like that. Like love is this kind of eternal thing or transcendental thing or whatever, this thing that escapes. I also think it's like taking that, love can be dangerous if it's severed from ethics. And ethics being like the fact that you're a human and you live in the world with other people and you are these kind of singular things, and you have to be aware of and considerate of the material needs of others. So like love could turn into a monstrous thing if you separate it from ethics.
Yeah, it's like good infinity, bad infinity, and Hegel, maybe.
Yeah.
Something there. Yeah.
Also, I mean, look, this what you read, Sean. I kind of want to go at it again, but with for the sentence above it, nothing is more different from the man enslaved to the operations of growth than the relatively free man of stable societies. Okay, so what he's talking about is you have humans caught in a situation where their society is trying to grow. It's trying to gain a certain stability, which is a very, precarious type of social situation to be in. So there's the pure subjects of growth. We have to build stability. There's not stability. Okay. That's what he's getting at in the next sentence. And that's the fantasy he's talking about. He's not doing like a Lacanian thing. He's talking about somebody, the type of person caught up in the drudgery of just trying to build a stable society, dreams about, think about if we could establish this type of stability we're chasing. Yeah, I mean, it's a certain fantasy, but it's like a concrete aspiration or wish. Like we got to get some stability where our mode of production has stabilized and we can reproduce it with a certain relative ease. So the person who's building that society, as opposed to the person who lives in it once it's established, two different types of people.
Yeah.
And
isn't it crazy? He's taking the general view when he says that, but it's like because we think the opposite from within the restricted economy. From that perspective, we think that we are relatively free and that people in the past were not. But he says that those people in the pre-modern, isn't that what he says? That they're the ones that are relatively free.
Well, they can,
you know what I mean?
They can help us gauge what we lack. The thing is also like growth is capitalism. The fantasy structure of capitalism is infinite growth. So the fantasy structure of the restricted economy is that you're always engaging in growth.
Yeah, but it's funny, the terminology, because the ultimate fantasy of the restricted economy is unlimited, unrestricted economy. Like that's what's funny. Whereas because the general economy,
it disavows the necessity. It disavows the necessity of waste, or it even denies the necessity of waste wherever it can, and then when it can't, it disavows it. So it moves the excess, it moves the expenditure from out in the public. We don't have festivals, we don't have public works. it's going on in fucking Mar-a-Lago and Little St. James and, you know, basements and fucking New York townhomes and shit like that. And it's disavowing it. And yeah, like the fantasy it's limitless. Like that's why the fantasy is limitless. It's infinite growth into an infinite space, free of all limits.
Sean, and the thing is, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I think he would say that people who live in potlatch societies have relative stability.
Yeah.
Just as we have relative stability. He's talking about almost, I kind of got to go there. Like, so Levinas.
He does
Levinas
say,
has.
Oh, sorry. He does say,
does he?
The relatively free man of stable societies.
Right. But I would just say the stable societies are potlatch societies.
Yeah.
Aztec societies, capitalist society. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, what I'm saying is that we like to think of ourselves as being relatively free relative to the past.
Yeah.
We like to, but he's saying it's the opposite. And I think that's right. I think we are actually enslaved. We think we're not. We think we're free.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because the production never ends. And capital, especially for us, is deterritorializing and decoding, which is anti-stability.
Yeah. And the big other didn't go away. It just changed forms. It just changed like we've been talking about. Like you guys have been establishing. Yeah, it changed from the big other, the no, to the enjoy, the injunction to enjoy, right?
Where else he says the science, man's science obviously has to correct the perspectives that result from the historical conditions of its elaboration.
But I mean, one of the points, and I mean, other people have made this point. Society can grow, in which case the excess is deliberately reserved for growth. Growth regularizes, it channels a disorderly evanescence into the regularity of productive operations, but growth to which is tied the development of knowledge is by nature a transitory state. So there's a certain
the churn, motherfucker.
The churn, right? Like and sometimes the churn churns more slowly, like in the Middle Ages, and then sometimes it's very rapid with capitalism. But yeah, I mean, because of the never-ending flow of the accursed share, it's this process of how are we going to expend this energy, and different answers in each society.
What about this sentence? The serious humanity of growth becomes civilized, more gentle, but it tends to confuse gentleness with the value of life and life's tranquil duration with its poetic dynamism.
I think that's an excellent, like what you were saying, like from our perspective, we think we have a great life and we think, oh, look at all the value, look at all the wonderful things. And in many cases that is true, but it's also true that, no, in a more wild world, there is more opportunity to live life. Like and especially now, like the world we live in today, we're all sedentary. Like we're freaks. We have computers grafted onto our fucking hands and our eyeballs, and it's very grotesque. Like it's something out of fucking a crazy science fiction novel. Like we're not actually enjoying life and it's gentle, it's pastoral. No, we're all sedentary freaks and we're all dying of congenital fucking heart disease.
Everything everything we've got is not, I mean, what he's about to say in the next sentence isn't disavow, it's denial. So then he goes on, it is misled by what it takes for full humanity, that is humanity at work. Wait, no, I'm sorry, hold on.
Under these conditions,
the clear knowledge it generally has of things cannot become a full self-knowledge. So it does have knowledge, but it's not going to disavow. It's going to just refuse to know something, right? What's it refuse to know? It is misled by what it takes for full humanity. That is humanity at work, living in order to work without ever fully enjoying the fruits of its labor. What it can't face up, capitalism cannot face up to the fact that humans, work and do not get to consume. Now, this is a tricky thing. So you're saying there's no consumption in the consumer society? I think that's a Bataillean point, and I think that's a great, interesting point.
It's not
Now, to Baudrillard, this is simulation of consumption.
That's it. There's no actual expenditure. It is the simulation. What's actually happening is you're reinvesting, because again, like the thing that's really going on is this mechanism that it's extending itself, and it's foreclosing your opportunity to enjoy the fruits of your labor. It's foreclosing your sovereignty, and it's shutting down your ability to depose of like all this stored up metabolic energy that you have like throughout the course of your life through work, all this utility that you've accrued. Well, then you should be able to, expend that in a lavish fashion, but you can't. You have to reinvest it. So even when you go and you purchase the new thing, what you're really doing is you're reinvesting in capital, and capital is continuing to disavow your expenditure.
Yeah. Fuck. I had like two different thoughts. I'm gonna stick with one of them. So Zupancic says in Disavow, knowledge thus adopts a new and different role. It is no longer simply something to be disavowed, but paradoxically something that can help us disavow. In parentheses, the real of this knowledge. Like, so when Bataille says, under these conditions, the clear self-knowledge it generally has of things cannot become a full self-knowledge. What the addendum of disavowal would say is that it can't become full self-knowledge because the knowledge itself is what is preventing it from becoming full self-knowledge. You know what I mean? Like because we see clearly, we see everything clearly, right? We have to have this, like, the knowledge itself is what we're using to not see.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Okay, so is it disavow or is it denial? I still think it's denial. Because I think if you ask the vast majority of people, does capitalism as a system suck because it doesn't allow humans to consume? I don't think they know that.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's something like they can't face that. It's not a common knowledge that they go, yeah, I know very well, but nevertheless. I think it's just something they just go, I can't face up to that.
I think from our perspective as individual nodes in the network, or the perspective of the individual consumer or prosumer, it is a denial. But from the perspective of capital, it is a disavowal, because capital is also implicated in this, because capital is this extension of us and our activity. And it's
Wait, so Mikey, say that one more time. Sorry.
No, so look, with denial, it is where you don't know very well, but you don't know at all. You refuse to know.
Yeah. So what are we denying?
We know all kinds of things about our society and about the economy, but what most people do not, I mean, especially when he's writing, do they know that capitalism is truly, this monstrous machine that doesn't allow anybody to consume? I don't think they knew that straightforwardly, the way that we, like us sitting here.
Yeah,
we know that the elites that run our society are basically vampiric, pedo, cannibal, like,
yeah,
right? I don't think they know the consequences. I mean, so many of them were so tapped in to this idea of, classic liberalism, to Adam Smith, Ricardo. This society is not that. It is the most open, fair society that we've had so far. People have a fair shot. You're not a slave or a serf. You can choose where you work. You don't have to, you're not coerced to work. Of course you are, but there's these formal abstract freedoms people have that slaves and serfs didn't have. So
see, I think when he was writing, I think you're right that it was denial. I think today it is disavowal, and that's why I want to say there's an addendum that we can add on top of what Bataille is saying to update it to today. I think it's today. I think we do know that that's bullshit.
Right. I think you're right. I think most Americans know very well, but nevertheless, they know that there's some problem with the structure of our society at its most fundamental level.
I think so.
Now, they might not know it's capital, but
like there's this weird thing that happens whenever one of these fucking school shootings happen. It's like everyone gives up. I don't know if this is 100% what we're talking about, but I think it is that like everyone gives up on the conversation about it. Like you go to work or you talk to a family member about it, everyone just stops the second it starts to get to things that would have to fundamentally change in order for this to stop happening. Like there's a point at which it just fizzles out. Like I've tried to talk to people about this shit because I'm like, no, really, like this is fucking insane that this keeps happening.
What is it about America?
Because like I was talking to my dad, I was like, you took a gun, you had a gun in the back of your car every day because you would go hunting after school out in fucking Stanwood in the middle of the hills. Like it never entered your head that you would take that gun and turn it on your classmates. That fucking never entered your mind, right? So something
How many of us
changed
have butcher knives in our
psychologically,
kitchen?
right?
How many of us have butcher knives in our kitchens? Do any of us just have the inclination to do some Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers shit? No, it doesn't even pop up as a fucking.
Yeah.
Oh, I could stab somebody in the throat with this.
Yeah.
Nobody has to fight. It doesn't even.
Yeah. So to me, that's the question. We're not talking about the issue of mass shooting at all, unless we're talking about why does this thought even come into someone's head? You know,
Why is this an outlet?
Yeah. And so, but the conversation, it stops before you get there with anyone, with almost 99% of people, if you ever try and talk to them about it. It's like the conversation.
Well, somebody could say, well, it's because guns are easily accessible. They used to be easily accessible long before this was a problem.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
what clicks? Yeah. What in the social order? I mean, that's a great point, Sean. But it is related to Bataille.
Yes.
Because you have young men who are just fucking boiling with energy and have no way of dissipating it. And they think the only way they can do it is this.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And it's another way that capitalism eats our children.
Yep. Like child sacrifice.
Yeah. It's another example of child sacrifice in the service of capitalism because we could change it. We could
shout out
specifically. Okay,
shout out on this very macabre point to OG Rose, but shout out nonetheless.
But this is specifically like we have to say American capitalism. They're not dealing with this.
Well, look, man, America is capital par excellence, and we export capitalism to the rest of the world. Capitalism started, I don't know, in the Mediterranean Sea, the Straits of Gibraltar.
But it really starts in
Florence, whatever.
England.
Then it goes to London, then it calcifies and it metastasizes and it becomes even more extreme. And then, oh, look, America, let's slaughter all the people who live there. And now we have a land without people. Let's create a people with no land. Let's ship them all over to America. America becomes the beating heart of capitalism. And America has since then been exporting capitalism to the rest of the globe. And slowly but surely, we are Americanizing the rest of the globe. Like we are.
So what do you?
But it doesn't seem like the school shootings follow. It still seems like an American thing.
One happened in Australia, then they fucking like banned guns.
Then they
shit,
did
and then
structural changes to make it more impossible.
And there was the one in Europe.
There was one in New Zealand. We still see mass acts of violence, and I think again, Columbine. People talk about the event of the 21st century, and they talk about 9/11. And while 9/11 was a revolutionary moment, Columbine was the real revolutionary moment. Columbine was when the world changed. Stephen King wrote a book about a school shooting. Pearl Jam had a song about a school shooting. There had been a few school shootings that had happened. I think one in the 70s, a few in the 80s, maybe one or two in the 90s. And then at the end of the 1990s, when Columbine happened, it became an outbreak of school shootings across the United States. And then public violence has kind of followed on. You see it in Germany, you see it in Italy, you see it in England, you see it in Africa, you see it in Australia, New Zealand. Like we still export mass violence. It's just these countries do have different structures. And so maybe the kid who's struggling the most doesn't have access to a gun, but he has access to a knife or he has access to an acid. And so he's going to go splash acid on a bunch of women. Like those are still American mass casualty events.
But what do you, on light of that, what do you guys think about this? That like, I think like It's actually Rick Boothby. I was kind of on the fence between like, is it psychosis that we're dealing with, or is it like just perversion, or is it both? And I'm like ordinary psychosis, right? I was on the fence for a long time. It was actually Rick Boothby had a point about Althusser that made me go like, oh shit, it's not psychosis. And here's why: is because like he has this great point where he's talking about Althusser and ideological interpolation, and he's like, why the fuck didn't Althusser think about in capitalism? He's a Marxist. In capitalism, what is ideological interpretation? It's simple as fuck. It's money. Like money replaces the symbolic orders. It's this like Deleuze and Guattari, they're talking about it as this like it overwrites everything. It's not a code.
Yeah.
It's an axiom. Yeah, exactly. But it's I guess the question is though, if it's not a code, if it's not symbolic, I'm kind of using those interchangeably. Or is it? Maybe it is. Like because if it is symbolic, then it's like there is a symbolic structure that replaces the one that capitalism evaporates, right? But if it's not a symbolic, if it's an axiom, if it's something different, if it doesn't have a symbolic valence, then we don't have a symbolic order. It's just dissolved and there's nothing to replace it. So to me, that kind of like one would be psychosis, ordinary psychosis. The other one would be perversion, depending on how you fall on that question. You know what I mean? You know what I'm getting at? Am I making any sense?
I mean, look, we live in a symbolic order. We have all kinds of values. We understand prohibition. It just doesn't. That's and D&G aren't saying that at all. I mean, in the sense like rejecting. Their point is, look, in the tribal society, right? What functioned was a local code, a local symbolic order, and it was highly connected to the earth, the terrain. So when you think of a certain Native American tribe, right, you think of them as connected to a certain territory, and you can't really think their world without that territory. Then you get the despotic machine, which is to say you have an imperial code or an overcode. And all that is like, okay, so there's all these little local codes. There's these local societies. They have their local customs and ways of life. I want to rule over them, so I have to put a symbolic order on top of their local symbolic orders. And mine's imperial because it's going to reign all over all of them. But ultimately, whether it's a traditional local code or an imperial overcode, these are all qualitative systems of meaning. They are saying like, okay, local codes, there's these gods and you do these rituals and these are the ways we organize marriages and blah, 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 blah. The imperial code is more abstract or something. It's say like, look, I really don't give a shit about your way of life. Have your way of life. Just pay me a certain, you gotta pay your due to the overlord, to the ruler, the blah, blah,
you got to make
blah.
sacrifices to the gods. You can worship your own god, but you have to also sacrifice to the imperial god, too.
Right. Exactly. And so if you do that, fine. But both create qualitative worlds, and all that means is what organized. And okay, so in the overcode, what is the focal point of the organization? It is the body of the despot, the body of the ruler itself. So locally, it's the earth, it's the terrain. Imperially, it's the body of the despot. What happens with capitalism is that the focal point of the organization becomes MCM prime, capital itself. And the thing with that is it is a quantitative mechanism. It doesn't care about qualitative human relationships or qualitative human, relationships between the gods and blah, 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 or other nations.
So don't you think that from that point, you can see how one would think that we live in something that's similar to psychosis, like where the symbolic order has been, but hold on, before you like, the symbolic order has simply been dissolved. But the thing is,
this is bankrupt. I don't like psychosis really means not being plugged in at all to qualitative human meaning. Just because our qualitative human meaning is now having to be cycled through a quantitative mechanism doesn't mean we're doing qualitative meaning right here and now.
Yeah.
And here's where I think I agree is that I think it's the quantitative does end up having qualitative determinations because like the value of something, if you just like, if a company decides, look, we're going to change our manufacturers to this like third world country and not give a shit about how this is being produced, but like we're still going to slap a big fat like price tag on it. We're still going to say it's worth the same amount, maybe even more. We're going to say it's worth, $150,000 for this fucking watch or whatever the fuck. Just putting that price tag on it is a symbolic determination of the value of that thing. Like that has a qualitative implication. Like the quantitative has a qualitative implication. It's high quality because it costs this much.
It's not like we don't symbolically
saying.
Understand quantity.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think this is a long-winded way of saying I've come around to like I don't think it's ordinary psychosis. I think it's what you guys are talking about that is really driving shit. Because I think that the axiomatics have this like symbolic life, the symbolic resonance.
Capital has a qualitative injunction, enjoy. And the negativized version of it means thou shalt not get in the way of capital accumulation.
Yep.
There is a prohibition.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Don't get in the way of the quantity machine.
Don't get in the way of the enjoyment of the other too. Like don't slow that enjoyment down. Line goes up.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, look, if anybody wants to do like numbers or psychotic, it's Nick Land. Numbers are from the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The numogram, the messages from the lemurs. But and okay, there's spooky coincidences there. Fine. I'm just saying that occult dimension aside, we understand numbers. They're part of our symbolic orders. They always have been. And just saying that one is now oriented towards quantity doesn't mean we're psychotics that don't have any prohibition or.
Yeah. The way we relate with number has changed is really what it is. And it does have like a significant like number itself has become symbolically weighted. That's just undeniable. Like number itself matters,
Yeah, but it's also, to bring it back to Bataille, it's just another way for the Accursed Share to do its, it's quantity oriented, but it is, another way of viewing the Accursed Share doing what it does.
Mm-hmm. I like to think of capitalism as fundamentally like in Deleuzian terms. Like I like to think of it as like the more in which that
stuff there,
the more in which that axiom, like you are capitalist, your country is capitalist to the extent that you let that axiom dominate over everything else. Like that is what capitalism is. That to me that just makes sense of a lot of shit.
All they mean by axiomatics, because somebody could say an axiom is a qualitative form of meaning. Yeah, I know. I don't really like this term they use, axiomatics. To be more accurate, it's capital logistics is what they're getting at. It's quantitative strategizing in the name of capital accumulation.
Well, yeah, and I guess the thing I disagree with them is I think it is a code. I think it is symbolic. They don't think it's a code, but it's a different kind. It's a different fucking kind.
Baudrillard defines our whole situation in terms of the code.
Yeah.
Right. So it's important to just understand they're just using a certain language to try to get at certain facets of it. And what they mean by code is a very specific usage of it.
Yeah.
Whereas Lacan, I don't think would say, what, we're not living in a symbolic order because it's capitalist modernity. Of course he would say it's a symbolic order.
Exactly.
It's a different type.
Yeah,
and
exactly. That's what I'm saying is like the translation from code to symbolic is like.
But with Baudrillard, it's the opposite, because he would say old potlatch societies weren't coded. Capitalism brings the code in the post-war era as this differential sign system attached to commodities. So again, it's just a matter of it's semantics here.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for fucking like. I think all that shit is just important. I think it's all connected to this and what capitalism is. It was a bit of a digression, but thanks for indulging me.
All
We
right.
got next. Oh yeah, here we go.
Consumption in the Aztec world view. The Aztecs, about whom I will speak first, are poles apart from us morally. As a civilization is judged by its works, their civilization seems wretched to us. They used writing and were versed in astronomy, but all their important undertakings were useless. Their science of architecture enabled them to construct pyramids, on top of which they immolated human beings. Their worldview is singularly and diametrically opposed to the activity-oriented perspective that we have. Consumption loomed just as large in their thinking as production does in ours. They were just as concerned about sacrificing as we are about working. The sun himself was in their eyes the expression of sacrifice. He was a god resembling man. He had become the sun by hurling himself into the flames of a brazier. The Spanish Franciscan Bernardino de San Juan, who wrote in the middle of the 16th century, reports what some old Aztecs told him. It is said that before the light of day existed, the gods assembled at the place called Teotihuacan and spoke among themselves, saying, "Who will take it upon himself to bring light to the world?" On hearing these words, a god called Quetzalcoatl presented himself and replied,
If anybody needed a nickname,
yeah, I will be the one. I will bring light to the world. The gods then spoke again and said, "Who else among you?" They looked at one another, then wondering who this would be, and none dared to accept the charge. All were afraid and made excuses. One of the gods, who usually went unnoticed, did not say anything, but only listened to what the other gods were saying. The other spoke to him, saying, "Let it be you, Bubusito." And he gladly accepted, replying, "I receive your order gratefully. So be it." And the two that were chosen began immediately to do penance, which lasted 4 days. Then a fire was lit in a hearth made in a rock. The god named Quetzalcoatl only offered costly things. Instead of branches, he offered rich feathers called Quetzalcoatl. Instead of grass balls, he offered gold ones. Instead of maggy spines, he offered spines made with precious stones. And instead of bloodied spines, he offered spines of red coral. And the copal he offered was of a very high quality. The baboso, whose name was Nanwatsin, offered 9 green water rushes bound in 3s instead of ordinary branches. He offered balls of grass and maggy spines blooded with his own blood, and instead of copal, he offered the scabs of his bubas. A tower was made for each of these two gods in the form of a hill. On these hills, they did penance for 4 nights. After the 4 nights of penance were completed, the branches and all the other objects they had used were thrown down there. The following night, a little before midnight, when they were to do their office, Quetzalcoatl was given his adornments. These consisted of a headdress of Atzecommitl feathers and a sleeveless jacket. As for Nanowatson, the baboso, they tied a paper headdress called Amatzontli on his hair and gave him a paper stole and a paper rag for pants to wear. When midnight had come, all the gods gathered round the hearth, which was called Teotihuacan, where the fire had burned for 4 days. They separated into 2 lines on the sides of the fire. The 2 chosen ones took their places near the hearth, with their faces to the fire in the middle of the 2 lines of gods. The latter were all standing, and they spoke to Quetzalcoatl, saying, "Go on, Quetzalcoatl, cast yourself into the fire." Hearing this, he started to throw himself into the flames, but the fire was burning high and very hot, and he stopped in fear and drew back. A second time he gathered his strength and turned to throw himself into the fire, but when he got near, he stopped and did not dare go further. 4 times he tried, but could not. Now it had been ordered that no one could try more than 4 times. So when the 4 attempts had been made, the gods addressed Nanawatson, saying, "Go on, Nanawatson, it is your turn to try." As soon as these words were said, he shut his eyes and, taking courage, went forward and threw himself into the fire. He began at once to cackle and sizzle like something being roasted. Seeing that he had thrown himself into the fire and was burning, Quetzalcoatl also cast himself into the flames and burned. It is said that an eagle went into the fire at the same time and burned, and this is why the eagle has scorched-looking and blackened feathers. An ocelot followed thereafter, but did not burn, only being singed, and this is why the ocelot remains spotted black and white. A short while later, having fallen on their knees, the gods saw Nanawatson, who had become the sun, rising in the east. He looked very red, appearing to sway from side to side, and none of them could keep their eyes on him, because he blinded them with his light. He shone brightly with his rays that reached in all directions. The moon, in turn, rose up over the horizon. Because he had hesitated, Quetzalcoatl shone less brightly. Then the gods had to die. The wind, Quetzalcoatl, killed them all. The wind tore out their hearts and used them to animate the newborn stars.
Never have I felt so bad for you while you were reading something. Fuck. Okay. So that's the myth.
They have the death of God in their
straight up
in their myth. Like, do you know of anyone else who kills their gods like that? Like, that's crazy.
I mean, the Egyptians do. I like, that's the thing, man. Like, gods are,
big people.
There's a myriad of gods. And the Judeo-Cruditian, the fuck?
Crudite tradition.
Yeah, what? But the Jewish god Allah, or not Allah, Yahweh. That's another weird. Yahweh is not the only one. And yeah, I mean, I do like the fact that they include the death of God and his resurrection in, well, it's not here, but that's their myth. That's how he comes back to life every day. It's not until.
Yeah, but gods that die and get resurrected, that's not, Christianity can't claim that as.
No, not that's the thing. Yeah, no, it's not down to Christianity at all. It's a rich tradition because they are, once again, big people. They're projections. They're anthropomorphizations of cosmic forces.
Well, and I mean that by especially, the Greek gods. And here's the thing. Sorry, Jehovah's a big person too. If you read
I'm telling
how
you,
he acts and thinks in the Bible. But when you get into the theology of it, they'll say, no, Jehovah's totally different. Allah's totally different than Zeus. Or, we view them, but
I don't
know. There's not many people doing Greek theology right now to defend them.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. Like, I know, I used to know, I don't know her anymore, but I know a Baha'i girl, and she was really interesting to talk about God with, because Baha'i is a weird faith that kind of incorporates Zoroastrianism. It incorporates types of Buddhism and Islam and of course Christianity. But she was really cool to talk to about God. But yeah, I don't know, man. Yahweh is not the only God in town, guys. It gets boring talking about Yahweh and only Yahweh all the time.
Well, I think I do think that there's something fucked if you attribute evil and death to your gods as opposed to good. I think that does set the stage for if the myths of your society are surrounded by the fabric of the universe is fundamentally evil. I think that is going to have some downstream effects as opposed to fundamentally good.
Well, sure, but I don't see that in the Aztec gods. How are they fundamentally evil?
I just think that because he says, then the gods had to die. The wind, Quetzalcoatl, killed them all. Like there's just so much violence and horror in the realm of the gods.
I don't think that's necessarily evil. I think that's
the wind tore out their hearts and used them to animate the newborn stars. Like they're literally saying blood and violence is.
Have you seen a human baby be born, dude? Blood and poop comes out along with the baby, and like all this weird goopy amniotic fluid, and then there's
that's reality. Reality is, that's different though. They're talking about myth. So like the very foundation of the universe itself is drenched in blood. Like I'm just saying, no wonder that they were like a very violent society. It's not surprising,
Well, yeah, but also, I mean, I don't like. They're not. It's not evil. It's not characterized as evil. It's characterized as this is the nature of life. Like when you watch a baby human be born, it's all bloody and gross. When you watch a baby cow be born, it's all bloody and gross. Like when you fight someone for resources because you need more shit to graze and hunter gatherer or whatever, like life is bloody. So trying to have a god that isn't gross and bloody, I think that's a fucking half-assed denial of the nature of reality itself. And I think that leads to some really fucked up problems where you have this purely positivistic affirmative worldview. I mean, that's what capitalism is, this purely affirmative world.
I'm not just talking about like being optimistic. I guess just that that's just such, I don't know. To me, that just seems like that doesn't seem like good. That seems like it rips out of their hearts. And that's how the stars are created by the gods having their hearts torn out,
Yeah.
Like, this is what undergirds their whole like myth that leads them to do human sacrifice and shit.
It is gnarly. It is definitely gnarly. But yeah.
And I think that is evil. Like what they're like, human sacrifice is evil. I just want to, like, it just is. Like,
for sure. Yeah. For sure.
What was the sacrifice of Jesus evil? That's human sacrifice.
I don't know. Maybe it was.
I mean, it's a real question that.
How about them?
A lot of people don't like that one asked.
Go forth and collect 600 foreskins. I mean, that's equally fucking weird to me.
And he went up from thence unto Bethel. And as he was going up by the way, there came forth little children out of the city and mocked him and said unto him, Go up, thou bald head. Go up, thou bald head. And he turned back and looked on them and cursed them in the name of the Lord. And there came forth 2 she-bears out of the wood and tar 42 children of them. So 42 little kids come across Elijah, mock him, basically saying, if you're the real prophet, Elijah, fly up into heaven on a fiery chariot, because we've heard about that happen to him. If you're his real, protege, do the same thing. God wasn't having it. He brought 2 bears out of the woods and had the 42 children mauled by bears. That is 2 Kings chapter 2, verse 23, 24.
Wait, whatever. I don't understand. I said that. Do you guys think I'm saying that like?
I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm saying that anybody who acts like, oh, this stuff with the Aztecs and their gods is so bloody and barbaric, hasn't read the Old Testament.
No, I'm saying they're both bloody and barbaric.
I'm not saying you. I'm not saying you. I'm saying there are people. He's talking about at the beginning. Oh, we're a civilized society. We think these Aztecs with their bloody rituals and their gods are horrible. They're wretched. And I'm like, I think not the Old Testament.
I think I think all our mythology is going to start out trying to make sense of the world. The world is a bloody, violent place. Violence is just a fact of life. I think all our mythology is going to try to find ways to cope with it, try to find ways to incorporate it. And I think it's up to us to see the difference between myth, fantasy, and like the real world that we live in, and the type of like pro-social projection that we want to do.
There's two main events at the beginning of the Bible. Okay, well, three. God creates everything, number one. Number two, Lucifer rebels. Number three, Adam and Eve rebel. So the book really starts with strife, with war, with antagonism.
Yeah.
And that's because that's the world we live in.
Yeah, and so it's a question of, like, to me, myth is, how do we cope with that? Like, how do we deal with that? And myth is just so many different ways across all of human history. So many different ways of trying to approach the fundamental terror that we have about the world, the fundamental contradictions that we live through. That's what myth is trying to do. There are just better or worse ways of making myth, of trying to cope with life itself and understand and navigate and create a symbolic order through which we can live a life that's intelligible to us.
Yeah. So
I love the great sentence. They were just concerned about sacrificing, just as concerned about sacrificing as we are about working.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, but the whole point is, and this, like OG Rose is saying, working is sacrifice.
Yeah.
Like
It really is. It's a sacrifice of our life. Like, we might be,
it is
horrifying that we might be living lives that are genuinely not worth living. Like, you can't onboard that into your life. You'll go crazy.
Seriously. We talk about structural violence, and I believe that's such a thing. I know that people go, oh, that's woke bullshit. No, there's such a thing as structural violence. Just because annoying leftists on social media annoy you with that doesn't mean there's not truth to it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But structural violence has an invisible quality to it, opposed to like blatant empirical acts of violence. Okay. This is Aztec's empirical human sacrifice, our lives, structural human sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what people don't see it, but it's there.
Yeah.
And everybody fucking feels it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
On some level.
What you got, Nance? Anything else? Don't want to add?
Yeah, what's the last paragraph here?
This myth is paralleled by the belief that not only men, but also wars were created so that there would be people whose hearts and blood could be taken, so that the sun might eat. Like the myth, this belief obviously conveys an extreme value placed on consumption. Each year, in honor of the sun, the Mexicans observed the 4 days of fasting that were observed by the gods. Then they immolated lepers who were like the buboso with the skin disease, for in their minds, thought was only an exposition of actions. So yeah, talking about like the myth, and the focus on consumption, the focus on sacrifice, and yeah, they didn't have the modern individual. They didn't have this notion that we all have moral weight, we all have ethical value, and in fact, we
almost
are,
like the last sentence was like, "There's no subjectivity, there's no interiority."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like, sure, and okay, fine, we do have the subject. Like modernity and the individual is kind of founded on interiority and subjectivity, singularity, this and that. It's also like we're moving into a world that's excising the subjectivity, and like we're moving away from all the great things that we have now, freedoms. And
Dude, do you guys think, like, so the Aztecs were like a terrible empire in their own part of the world? Like, the reason why they were destroyed by the Spanish so easily is a combination of disease and the fact that they were so hated by everyone else who lived there, that every other tribe around teamed up with the Spanish to fuck up the Aztecs. Like, do you think that I want to say that the Aztecs were this like empire destroying subjectivity and creating this sort of like this society feeding on the blood of everyone around them.
Or the Aztecs proto-capital.
Yeah, well, they it's just that like, yeah, I think that they were destroying subjectivity, which allowed this like expansionist, like sacrifice hungry empire to like, you know, to channel everything towards growth and sacrifice in this way, rather than I don't know, anything else. It's like they destroyed subjectivity, like, you know what I mean? And so like everyone had to be exterior, and this makes everyone fucking crazy.
Guys, I think right now, and tell me what you think of this. I think right now I'm feeling like, okay, here's where I start to have maybe some issues with Bataille. Is he makes these distinctions, and I end up thinking they're not that great of distinctions. So
Hmm.
sacrifice versus work. But we just know, like, when you think it through, our work lives are the sacrifice. Like, this isn't like some strong binary distinction. Like the very thing, I mean, Derrida, I just see could have a lot of fun going, well, the ultimate sacrifice is work. Like, so the very thing that you're setting up as a dichotomy, like there's, I don't know, RK sacrifice underneath work in opposition to sacrifice. Like, the thing he does with speech and writing. Well, really, speech is based on this RK writing. I almost feel like he could do that here. And then I don't know. Like the other issue is this opposition of utility and expenditure. I'm sorry. The human sacrifices, weren't they being treated as functions or tools? Because you're
Yeah.
doing this to for a use value. What's the use value of the human you're sacrificing? You appease the gods.
Mm-hmm.
So that there is this logic of pure utility, pure
I th-
dehumanizing utility at work in the sacrifice, and so or the consumption.
Yeah, I guess I don't read it as a binary, even for him. I don't know about you, Nance, but I read it as like when he says they were just as concerned about sacrificing as we are about working. You could read that as a binary. You could also read it as like they're on the same level. They're You can also read it as he's drawing a
Well, he
parallel
is
between
saying
the two.
we live in a productionist paradigm with utility. Like he is making that distinction, and I just and this idea that none of us genuinely consume like in our world. I think that you can. I mean, there's a fun point there. I think it's counterintuitive, and I like the Baudrillardian thing, but there's also a sense that we genuinely consume more than most people who have ever walked the earth. Like, if we want to say we don't consume the way they did in Potlatch, okay, that's cool. But like the way that we consume in consumer society compared to what people were able to consume in the Middle Ages, I don't know. I think we have them beat on consumption.
What do you think, Nance?
I don't know. I think, I don't. I almost don't care about the Aztecs. I almost don't care about. I almost don't care about a lot of what Bataille thinks he's doing. Or maybe
That's
is
me
doing.
and Freud. That's me and Freud.
But look, I love Bataille. I fucking love Bataille. But there's just like my Bataille is very different, I guess, from like the standard reading of Bataille, because it's not about the Aztecs and this and that, because there's problems. I do think there is a distinction that like he is pointing out different modes of like the Aztec society isn't about infinite growth so much as it is just about like infinite being. So yes,
I think it's about
can you ever? But here's the thing:
infinite
can you ever
sacrifice.
sacrifice enough?
Yeah, it's about infinite sacrifice,
right?
Which is analogous to infinite growth, but not identical.
Not identical. But I don't know. Like the thing, like Bataille, expenditure is this necessary thing that's going to happen, whether you want it or not. And sovereignty or emancipation or whatever is what decides to do, like what gets to decide what is done with the accursed share, with this excess buildup, or with the ultimate product of your metabolic laboring upon the earth. And so, the Aztec stuff, I don't even like potlatch. To me, potlatch is still a functional utilitarian thing because it is still about gaining social standing at the end of the day. Like, yes, we come together. Yes, we celebrate. But there's this underlying logic of like, I can gift you more. And so therefore I have a higher social standing. So I don't really care about, I also don't care about Marcel Mauss. I think Baudrillard is doing something more interesting with symbolic exchange than just potlatch. But Bataille like points out this very, very specific tension point of what to do with the excess. The excess is there. The excess exists in capitalism, in the restricted economy. We're constantly reinvesting. So the consumption that we do is productive consumption. And the produce or the product of our metabolic activity and of our consumption gets reinvested back into capital. So that shows that capital is the sovereign in capitalism. Ultimately, capital, or the logic of capital, gets to decide how to spend the accursed share, how to dissipate the excess. And in our superegoic capitalism that we're living in, it just disavows the excess. And then we see things like World War I, World War II. We see things like school shooting and Jeffrey Epstein and all that because it's disavowed and it's hidden behind closed doors. It's not done out in the open. But when you are the sovereign or when you're emancipated, you can choose, we are going to spend this excess in a pro-social way, in a way that's life-affirming. I'm going to spend my excess on symbolic exchange. Or we're going to spend our social surplus on public parks and public education programs and public transport and all this stuff, rather than just reinvesting it back into the capital machine, back into the logic of capital. That's all about accumulation. That's all about store up as much utility as you can. So it really does come down to utility and waste and freedom versus slavery. To me, that's what Bataille's doing. I don't care about the Aztecs. I don't care about the Pacific Northwest Indians and potlatch. It's interesting, but it's not what matters.
Okay, but and here's the thing. I already can tell you, I like your Bataille more than Bataille himself.
Yeah.
And I might have already said this to you at one point. And I think it is because when we get into the actual words on the page, I think he was a good idea guy. I don't think he was like a refined theorist. I think he's like a artsy writer guy, and this is his one theory book. And so I give him a break on that because no, he's not Immanuel Kant.
Yeah.
And it's not fair of me to ask that. But I'm just saying, I feel like he is going to try to say there's a difference in orientation between Aztec society and capitalist society. And
I think there is.
Or you don't think that that's what he's doing, or do you think that what he's trying to do with all of the different examples in the historical data, whether it's the Muslims, whether it's Soviet Union, is he trying to say no, the same thing is happening each time, but in a modified way?
Maybe it's the same thing is always happening in a modified way because there are real differences. There are real differences. And I do think like the Aztec Empire, they don't deny sacrifice. They don't disavow sacrifice. They do it out in the open. And so that actually becomes a point of cohesion for their socius or for their society. Whereas in capitalism, we deny, we disavow, we don't waste, you can't waste. And so it actually becomes dysfunctional and it causes not just world wars, but it causes, I believe the accursed share is responsible for school shootings and overdoses and, all this diseases of poverty that we talk about because we're failing to deal with both the problems of surplus and overproductivity and the problems of poverty. So like, I think the accursed share is this inroad to managing the general economy. I don't think Bataille would say, these people perfectly did general economy. That's why like using the Aztecs and using the Pacific Northwest and like using all this stuff to point out general economy, I think it does fail.
Don't you think he could have said this and he could have been a little bit clearer about what is each instance of the historical data supposed to actually prove or support?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess all I'm saying is like, all I would want to add is, look, I think there's a homology that's interesting between our relationship to capital hyphen superego and the Aztecs' relation to the sun, which
For
is,
sure.
it seems like they are under the weight of an impossible demand. The more they sacrifice, the more they actually have to sacrifice. It's an impossible demand because you can never fulfill it. And
Well,
yeah,
that's why they go to war, and that's why they become expansionist, to try to live up to this impossible demand, because you know they don't want to. You don't want to sacrifice your homie Joe. You don't want to sacrifice Slim Jim. You want to sacrifice, you know, this other motherfucker who lives 2 mountains away. Yeah, like as much
but
as I
it
love
seems the sun is capital and superego for them.
So
so it's
they have a. I think what comes out when you look at these examples, though, is that like they are better at thinking the general economy because they're thinking in terms of like something like energy. They're thinking about the sun. They're thinking about not just the restricted economy. They're not just thinking about money. But it's their economy is their general economy is restricted in the sense that it's not universal. It's particular to their symbolic order.
That's perfect. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
whereas like some moving beyond both of these would be to universalize the general
Yes.
economy, right? Don't you think?
Yeah, and the Tibetan monk example, I think, is actually a really good example, and I think that could be a trajectory towards the universal, to kind of escape the particular, because even the general economy gets trapped in particularisms, and so that once again becomes a problem. We come up against limits.
Because like if you're not a Roman citizen in Rome, you don't fucking matter, you know. But that's slightly more universal than what came before, because the Roman citizenship got expanded repeatedly throughout the empire. So it becomes, but it's still, if you're outside of that, you still don't fucking. There's still no humanity. Humanity doesn't fucking matter.
Previously, you were a Thracian or a Macedonian or a Thespian or whatever. And then Rome does innovate, like, hey, we're Rome. We're just going to make everywhere Rome. Instead of dealing with difference, they just overcode difference. But even with that, they come up against limits.
How you guys find? Do you want to do one more section, or is it better to wrap up now? I can do one more.
Is this where he starts to get into war?
I think it's the human sacrifices of Mexico, which is really, it's a pretty short section.
We could do another section. Yeah, I'm down.
It's really it's just 2 pages.
Yeah,
let's do it. But yeah, I do have to say, I fucking love Bataille. Bataille is one of my guys, but I also almost don't fucking care about so many things that Bataille says.
I love this shit. The anthropology shit is like, I don't know. I love it.
The human sacrifices of Mexico. We have a fuller, more vivid knowledge of the human sacrifices of Mexico than we do of those of earlier times. Doubtless, they represent an apex of horror in the cruel chain of religious rites. The priests killed their victims on top of the pyramids. They would stretch them over a stone altar and strike them in the chest with an obsidian knife. They would tear out the still-beating heart and raise it thus to the sun. Most of the victims were prisoners of war, which justified the idea of wars as necessary to the life of the sun. Wars meant consumption, not conquest, and the Mexicans thought that if they ceased, the sun would cease to give light. Around Easter time, they undertook the sacrificial slaying of a young man of irreproachable beauty. He was chosen from among the captives the previous year, and from that moment he lived like a great lord. He went through the whole town very well dressed, with flowers in his hand and accompanied by certain personalities. He would bow graciously to all whom he met, and they all knew he was the image of Tezcatlipoca, one of the greatest gods, and prostrated themselves before him, worshiping him wherever they met him. Sometimes he could be seen in the temple on top of the pyramid of Quetzalcoatl, Up there, he would play the flute at night or in the daytime, whichever time he wished to do it. After playing the flute, he too would turn incense toward the four parts of the world and then return home to his room. Every care was taken to ensure the elegance and princely distinction of his life. If, due to the good treatment, he grew stout, they would make him drink salt water to keep slender. 20 days previous to the festival, they gave this youth 4 maidens, well prepared and educated for this purpose. During those 20 days, he had carnal intercourse with these maidens. The 4 girls they gave him as wives, and who had been reared with special care for that purpose, were given names of 4 goddesses. 5 days before he was to die, they gave festivities for him, banquets held in cool and gay places, and many chieftains and prominent people accompanied him. On the day of the festival, when he was to die, they took him to an oratory, which they called the Tlachicalco. Before reaching it, at a place called Tlapitwayan, the women stepped aside and left him. As he got to the place where he was to be killed, he mounted the steps by himself, and on each one of these he broke one of the flutes which he had played during the year. He was awaited at the top by the satraps or priests who were to kill him, and these now grabbed him and threw him onto the stone block, and holding him by feet, hands, and head, thrown on his back, the priest who had the stone knife buried it with a mighty thrust in the victim's breast, and after drawing it out, thrust one hand into the opening and tore out the heart, which he at once offered to the sun. Respect was shown for the young man's body. It was carried down slowly to the temple courtyard. Ordinary victims were thrown down the steps to the bottom. The greatest violence was habitual. The dead person was flayed, and the priest then clothed himself in his bloody skin. Men were thrown into a furnace and pulled out with a hook to be placed on the executioner's block, still alive. More often than not, the flesh consecrated by the immolation was eaten. The festivals followed one another without interruption, and every year the divine service called for countless sacrifices. 20,000 is given as the number. One of the victims, incarnating a god, he climbed to the sacrifice surrounded, like a god, by an attendance that would accompany him in death.
Okay, look. I understand. Some people would say it's in poor taste or something to do this, but we've already done it, so fuck it. What's the difference between what we just read and Epstein? There is a difference.
That it's out in the open is what I would say.
It's out in the open. You're right. It's symbolically sanctioned, and not only is it symbolically sanctioned, it's sanctioned by the explicit public law. This isn't even superego.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. It actually. Now I'm thinking about it, it's not even inherent transgression.
Yep.
It is the explicit rule of the symbolic order, and maybe that's what makes it horrifying. Epstein, we can go, this is not the actual rule, explicit protocols and values of our symbolic order. The Aztecs just were like, no, this is what it is to be Aztec.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the difference? And which one's more horrifying? The hidden one that has to hide, or the one that just explicitly takes a stand on its society as that?
What we won't admit is that the exception proves the rule. Like for us, it's all these exceptional events that that never happens to in polite society. But there's so many fucking exceptions.
But we're
that
more
at some
ideological.
Point,
they're just honest.
Yeah, they're just honest. Yeah.
That's what.
So
yeah.
what do we do with that? Like, like, is there a way to be honest and not sacrifice fucking people on a throne of blood?
Well, I think.
I mean, go ahead.
I think there is. I mean, I think we've moved beyond believing that we have to feed the sun with blood. But the exception proving the rule, or these exceptional events telling truths about our society, like demonstrate that we're worse than the Aztecs. We're no better than the Aztecs because we're lying to ourselves about it. And we're pretending like, oh, look how advanced we are. Look how free we are. Look at all the values of life. We live in such a civilized world, and like all these things that like Batai's talking about, we get confused. We confuse man at work for the fullness of man, or whatever it is. Like, I think Epstein is more horrifying. And I also think we can exist in a world where we recognize the general economy. We recognize that there are these kind of laws of metabolism, of growth and reproduction. There are material limits to what we can do. And we don't need to sacrifice to the sun god anymore. We don't need to sacrifice to capitalism. That's the truth of the matter. That's what's really going on. People have all these fantasies. Oh, they worship owl gods and they fucking bathe in the blood of children and blah, blah, blah. And I'm Alex Jones and fucking all this dumb bullshit. Like, no, you're actually supporting the belief that we still have to sacrifice our children to Moloch or Belial.
What if they're doing this and gods aren't involved at all?
Well,
it's almost like you have to believe oh, it is rooted in some satanic or occult ritual. What if it's not at all? What if he's eating people just
predominantly? I think they do it to do it. I don't think they believe in gods or God or like, I don't think there's occult shit going on predominantly. I'm sure some of them absolutely believe in God or the devil or whatever. But like, that's what's even worse about it. Like, we've gone a step further. Like, no longer is it a cosmic commandment from the life giver. Now it's just a group of elites doing it to get off on it. Like, that's why it's even more horrifying. And the truth of the
banality of evil thing,
the banality of evil. The truth of the matter is we have reached a point where materially we could free ourselves. We don't have to sacrifice our children to the sun god. We also don't necessarily have to sacrifice our children to capitalism, whatever you want to call it. But we're still trapped in the logic of that. We're still trapped in this restricted economy where we have no power and we have no choice in the matter.
So I'm here. Okay, hear me out, because I kind of have a counter argument. It's not really a counter argument. It's almost like a parallax gap or parallax view on what you just said. Okay, I also want to defend the idea that our symbolic order is better and more progressive in a good way. Here's why. So here's where it's it's the gap. On one hand, it's right. It's more ideological because all this horrible shit is still going on by the people in power, just like it was the priests and the people in power in the Aztec world doing it.
Yep.
We still have these people in power who are doing these horrible things to our fellow human beings. The thing is, the symbolic can be used by us to denounce that shit in a way it can't by them. Whereas we can actually use the big other against these fucks as a point of leverage to say, no, what you're doing is fucking wrong. It's not approved by the symbolic order. You are operating outside of it. We're going to hold your fucking ass accountable. No matter how many sweetheart deals you get, we're going to get your ass eventually, because it's not acceptable here.
This is why I believe in taking up modernity and forcing modernity to give us what it promised us all along. Baudrillard says, return to the code. Yes, I absolutely take that to heart. I think it's true. We could. That's available to us now. And that, I think, is the project of whatever politics that will necessarily take shape is demanding.
I want to agree, but I also like, what is that? Does that big other really exist now? Like, is there something we can appeal to that would actually be convincing to people? Most
humans will say that they agree that thou shalt not kill. I don't care if it comes from the Bible or where. There's a generic set of codes. Do not harm children.
Yeah.
Most of us can agree on that shit. Do not eat other human beings. Okay, like yes, we can still form a consensus. And we can say this consensus is based on the long trek of human history to say, no, these are the best values we've got. Don't fucking break them. And I don't know, for an analogy, look, this formal freedom of wage labor, right? Okay, so now I'm not a serf and I'm not a slave, right? Now I'm formally free. I can choose who I work for. Now, of course, we know there's an ideological dimension here because you're still a slave in this more abstract sense. You cannot say no to the capitalist class. You can say no to a specific capitalist, but under slavery and serfdom, you couldn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. Even though there's this ideological thing, there is a dimension of freedom here. Even Slavoj emphasizes this. Marx gets it too.
Yep.
We need to use that dimension of freedom against the ideological aspect that comes with it. But there is a freedom that is opened up by this formal dimension. And I think that's the same with our symbolic order opposed to the Aztecs.
But I think even Slavoj turns to Christianity for some reason. Like, I think that it does present a problem for us in post modernity, where we live in this fractured mass to where we can't point to one book. We can't say this is the book that fixes the symbolic order. This is it, and that might be good, but I'm just saying it is also a problem. It's something that I don't think has been worked through historically so far.
I think
You know what I mean?
So he turns to this because, and Nance and I mean, don't get us started on this. We'll be here all night. I'll just say this. Look, his point is he reads the crucifixion via Hegel. He views it as this image of the exterior big other actually dying, coming into the human world and dying, and then a community being created around the very lack in the other.
Yeah.
And so I like it as that right there, this little metaphor. That's great. Because what it's saying is we don't need the sun to be this absolute unbarred big other. We fuck your authority. And hey, big other, if you're telling us to do things that hurt human beings, fuck you. Your authority shit because you are not yourself full. You are lacking too. You're like us.
Yeah.
And what he likes about Christ is this embodiment of God, but as a lacking human. I mean, this is Kierkegaardian. It's God. Jesus is the absolute paradox. He's everything that God is, but he's everything we are. And that means at one and the same time, he's all knowing, but he's not all knowing. He's all present, but he's not all present. He's all good, but he can be tempted to sin. And the point is, it's this image of God as lacking, vulnerable. And sorry, the sun god was not lacking or vulnerable.
No.
But the point is, if they had used a certain different type of logic, you could go, wait a second. You are lacking and vulnerable. Why the fuck do you need these sacrifices?
That's it. And that's what bothers me, dude. People do this thing where it's like these sun gods, he was vulnerable. He had to be fed. He was lacking. He had to be resurrected.
Modernity. That's the truth of modernity.
The thing is, dude, like modernity, Descartes and Kant killed God. And I think that's a good thing. And sure, Christian atheism, that's fine. But I mean, let's talk to the 1.4 billion Hindus. Let's talk to the 1.6 billion Muslims. Let's talk to all the Buddhists. They're just not ever accounted for when people talk about Christian atheism. It bothers me.
I wanted to say something on that.
Made that point too.
But I wanted to say something on that is that I think that's true. And that is a problem. But I think it's also Slavoj. The reason why I think Slavoj is on the right track is because I think we do really need, this is also why I do appreciate Girard, is because I do think we need to rewrite the myths. We need to rethink the myths. We still have to live through myth. That's never going to go away. We will not be post-ideological ever, right? So Zizek thinking through what can this myth mean in light of modernity, I think is really important. I think that needs to be done for the Hindus. That needs to be done for Buddhism.
Sure.
And it all needs to point to this lack in the other. I think that is what it has to point to. And so Zizek is doing that in this framework in Christianity.
But to defend Slavoj, I know what his point is. Here's the difference. This whole thing that we were just talking about the explicit level of the law with the Aztecs, Christianity actually makes explicit the lack in God in a way that Islam and Hinduism and these other religions don't. Like, it really portrays God as lacking and vulnerable because he comes down in human form and in the lowest of human forms. He basically, if he came back, if he was to come and do his thing now, he'd be a janitor.
Yeah,
right.
That's Kurt Vonnegut's point, is that like the Bible was almost the best story ever written, but they fucked it up because like what it ends up being interpreted as instead is that you killed the most well-connected person imaginable, which is the opposite of what it was supposed to be about, which is you killed the least of these. And then it ends with him
in his great white throne form as this Lovecraftian Christ that
so you could get
sending the vast majority of humans to hell.
Yeah, you could get either out of Christianity. You could really read it either way, but like there's obviously a better way to read it.
Problem is, Book of Revelation, whether anybody likes it, it's historically, it is the quilting point. It is what ends the book. And that is the image it ends on. So
I think postmodern Jesus for the win. I don't know. I think myth is important. Identity is important because we need a kind of identity to overcome. Like we need a cohesive lack. We need a universal lack. And how do we accomplish that? We accomplish that by coming into this non-relation with our own identity, subjective destitution, whatever. But it all happens at this moment on the side of the subject. For me personally, stories about God have never done it for me. Stories about Jesus and heaven and hell, they've never done it for me, man. Let's come up with a new myth. Let's come up with a new way to talk about these things instead of relying on stuff that 9 times out of 10, I see a lot of people just doing the same old thing. Like they think they're going to start out, they think they're doing something different. They think they're being innovative. And I'm not accusing Rollins or Zizek or like any of these people that are doing Christian atheism and do. I think it's great. I think it's excellent. But there are people who think they're doing one thing and then turns out, I was just doing Calvinism with extra steps. Like they find themselves back at this weird, fucked up, exclusive position.
Nick is doing something with,
he's the what do we call it? Material Calvinism or nihilistic?
No,
Calvinism?
He calls it Gnostic Calvinism.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I just think we can come up with new myths. We could come up with
Nance and I,
cool too. Yeah.
I just want to say Nance and I are working on these essays. Postmodern Jesus is Nance's. Mine's got a different title, but also like Lovecraftian Christ is something I'm working on. So yeah, I mean, at some point we kind of tiptoe around Christianity because we just it's like, do we want to go into our era where we're discussing this a lot, or do we want to keep doing other stuff?
2014 YouTube atheist, Google Hangouts, fucking atheism debates.
We'll get into it when I start doing my Bible study.
Yeah.
For my Patreon, which I'm not joking, we're gonna do this at some point.
I'm pumped for that.
A lot of this will come out.
And I just think it is myth. Like that's the thing is like I don't take it seriously. It just this is myth, and I think human beings do have to live through myth because a lot of what postmodernity has been about is like removing all practices of humanization.
Yeah,
like you are just bare life. You are just a Homo sapien. That's all you are. And there is no symbolic. What do you call it? Like coming of age or interpolation. Like none of that.
Yeah,
fucking shit except for money.
No,
so it's like,
I like that.
Yeah. And so it's like, I think that we do need new myths. We need to rethink old myths, whatever fucking works for people. I don't give a shit, but it's just like, we do have to have myth is all, we do think through stories,
Yeah. I think it's probably a bad thing to have young men identifying with Captain America and Aquaman. Having more young men identifying with these all-powerful heroes than
or Conor McGregor, for that matter,
McGregor or Andrew Tate, because Andrew Tate is a mythical feature. Like, he's not a real feature. Like, he is semi-mythical or whatever. No, I think Jesus Christ is probably a better role model for young men
than the primal father, which is a myth too.
Yeah.
But Andrew Tate and these guys try to do the primal father myth.
Yeah.
And I don't much care about like Revelation, but I do like I think the Gospels are like wonderful. Like, I still reread the Gospels, even though I take them as myth, but I still reread them as myth, and I think that there's something profound there. You know,
they're some of my least like my favorite books are going to be like Job, Book of Revelation, Book of Revelation, Ecclesiastes.
I really like Deuteronomy.
Well, this is why I say that there's that's an insane thing to say.
I like to hyperfixate, and I like rules.
Oh, I love it.
I like fucking.
What were humans thinking 4,000 years ago? This?
Yeah.
I love it. But this is why I say it's I don't know. It's just myth though. And I don't say that I say that there isn't Christianity. There are Christianities. Yeah. There's no two people have the same like appreciation or way of approaching or engaging with these texts, you know. So it's not like we don't want to reclaim and dominate Christianity. It's just that, like, you know, we're the practice of interpolating, the practice of myth making is what I think is important and necessary.
The fact that there is no Christianity writ large. There's a plurality of Christianities. Like that, I think that just if every Christian realized that, I think that would be this beautiful moment of like, oh, you mean we're going to overcome all these like conflicts and all this tension and all this bad shit that falls out of Christianity because people think there is no true Scotsman, no true Christian, right? Like, that's a horrible thing. But that goes against the doctrine, the church doctrine, the dogma.
Here's what I want. What I want is a non-phantasmatic, non-mythological vision of the future. I don't need the promise of wholeness. I don't need the promise of perfection. And I certainly don't need the promise of gods be there, however you want to frame. I don't need, I need a vision of humanity collectively emancipated so as to pursue lives of meaning amongst ourselves here on this planet. And it's an imminent vision. I don't need visions of transcendence. And I don't know what the vision I'm looking for is a very grounded vision that is not phantasmatic and that is not mythological. You can say it's mythological because maybe it's a story, but I need it shot through with some kind of atheism where it's like, it's not a promise of like ultimate salvation or.
But for some people, atheism is the promise of ultimate salvation. When we finally get rid of religion, we'll be free.
Yeah.
Finally. But I just want to say, like, and then I have to feed my dog really quick, but like, so I can hear you still, but I'm going to step away. But like, I think lack is a myth. I think that's a myth. It's obviously a myth. That's okay. That's not to say something's a myth isn't to say it's bullshit. It's just that I think that is an organizing myth. It's a great one. I want to promote that myth, but it's still a myth.
But okay, then what isn't a myth?
That's the point. That's the point. Is it's inescapable. To say that there's a beyond of myth is to say that there's a beyond of ideology, which is we know is absurd. I don't think you can escape ideology, myth, ideology. I'm using them more or less interchangeably.
You can escape ideology simply by recognizing that you're up against ideology, though. There's a sense where you like, I mean, the whole point of ideology critique is to become freed from it on some level. It's not that you never have to deal with ideology ever again, but
I think saying it's all myth. I don't know, maybe like shared meaning. Like when we access shared meaning, we're accessing something mythical. And maybe that's okay.
I mean, it's symbolic. The symbolic is a fiction. If you're not duped, you're
yeah.
worse off. I mean, yeah, but I just feel like now we're at a point where we're stretching the word myth so much.
Yeah.
That we're not talking about, you know, Aesop's fables or the Gospels at this point. We're talking like the symbolic order is this virtual structure of signifiers, and well, it's myth because what
it's not a
not made
stretching
of.
to. I guess it's not a stretching to me because that's just what myth means. So like to me, I don't see myself as stretching it. It's just like that's what I think it means. You know what I mean? Like
I think myth is like little tales. Myths are little tales designed to answer big questions, which they ultimately don't answer, not in any verifiable way. And they're, in a sense, used to patch over our lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
And I would rather just sit in the lack of knowledge. I don't need an image of how the universe got here. I don't know how the fuck the universe got here. And I don't know, I can't even begin to imagine what happened prior to the Big Bang. And I don't need anything to tell me to fill in that, here's what I don't need that gap filled.
I think
it can just remain open as a gap.
Yeah. And I think on that, like myth can serve sometimes to cover the real, to protect us from always sitting in the real, from I don't know, from encountering an elder god and being driven mad by the real itself. So maybe in that sense, like that kind of myth is necessary. But there are some times where, there are some times when it's like, no, I'm okay with this. This is a lack. This is a real lack. And I'm okay to sit in that. I'm okay to be
like, okay. So is my lack of knowledge of how the origin of the universe, is that a myth? I would say no. That lack is a real lack. It's not mythological.
Any attempt to characterize the beginning of the universe would be mythical. So if you're trying to tell any story about it, then it would be a myth. Whereas I think it is a genuine lack to just say,
it's a counterpoint to Sean. Sean said lack itself is a myth, and I'm sitting here going, well, my lack of knowledge of the beginning of the universe isn't a myth.
Yeah.
It's a real lack that I don't have that knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think, I don't know, myth.
I don't know. I don't think that myth is positive. Like I don't think that myth is only covering over. I think it's also sometimes showing us lack. That's the whole point of reinterpreting or re-understanding the biblical narrative of the crucifixion as the death of God. Like I think that myth does do that also. So I don't think that myth is just only like the negativity in the example that both Zizek and Zupancic use about the masks and the Hopi tribe. There's this, you set up this story so that then you can lose something. Once you have meaning, then you can lose it in a way.
So the coffee without cream, where's the myth in the without cream as opposed to the without milk?
It's about lack, isn't it?
No, I know, but in that example, like not to tell the story, but to try to use that as an actual example, like is there a mythical element because it's particularly without this one thing as opposed to this other thing?
I mean, I think so. Not sure.
I don't know either.
But I mean, okay, but you see my point where it's like my lack of knowledge of the beginning of the universe is not a myth. It's a real lack that I have to face. I have to reckon with. I have to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
And just look, empirically, most most myths across all cultures, typically, I mean, if you look at all of the myths about the origin of the universe, yeah, they're just silly. They are silly stories trying to cover over this gap. And because they're, what are we supposed to do in this universe? None of us actually fucking know. So if you want to organize a social order, you got to fill that gap in, especially with pre-modern world. Sorry, you do, because you're trying to impose authority on a group of people to get them acting in some sort of regular routine way. And you say, oh, Tiamat body was ripped in half, and then this happened, and then this. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, if you look at all these myths, they're no different than kids in the 80s playing with action figures. I've done this before. And then Superman comes down, and then
Yeah.
it's like, it's just a bunch of, and then Tiamat was ripped in half, and then it's like, prove any of this shit. Well, you fucking can't. So I'm sorry, at some point, I understand your point, Sean, but at another point, it's like, I don't need stories like that.
Yeah.
I don't need Tiamat. I don't need Adam and Eve. I don't need this shit to like be a human and have meaningful relations with other humans.
I guess, yeah, I think so. And I think that's why something new has to come about, because like, I think the story that we begin to tell is like, here is my journey in dealing with, wrestling with why the fuck I don't know where the universe came from. You can start your journey from that point.
Yeah.
Of, I don't know. That's what I'm passing down to you, the non-knowledge, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And now you can pick up that same struggle.
Here's the fruit of modernity. Okay, I don't know. And if somebody tells me that they do know, they have to verify it. I don't accept it on authority.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it is individual. Like, I think it's, and certain societies have been better at this than others. Like, some societies have had like individual spirit quests that you go on based on a dream that you had. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not just every society is like, you have to accept this list of propositions. Some of them are like a little bit more creative, so we can take some inspiration from that, where the individual gets to pose the questions themselves, you know?
I guess my vision, if you want to call it a myth, cool, on this one, because this is a myth I would accept, but my vision is all of us going, none of us know how the fuck we got here. None of us have a good answer for it, not even scientists. And can we organize on the basis of that lack and that truth?
Yeah. I think we have
covering that over.
Yeah, I think we have to. Yeah.
And so it's basically a vision without myth in a very specific sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Without Tiamat.
I see what you mean. Yeah. And I think this connects to something Nance said a little bit ago, is that you said that Descartes and Kant killed God. And so that brings up to me this, like, this is connected, I swear, is that like, I think that there's a difference between nihilism and like a material. There's a difference between nihilism and lack, and there's a difference between like a materialistic worldview and nihilism, right? Because like, I don't think that Descartes and Kant disenchanted the world at all.
Straight up.
Like, not even a little bit. I think that if they killed God, it's in a very different sense, right? I think that what disenchanted the world is capitalism. What brings about nihilism is capitalism. Absolutely. I don't think that philosophers cooked up nihilism at all. I don't think they had any hand, and I don't think science had any hand in doing that, except in as much as it is the bitch of capitalism.
What Descartes does, even more than Kant, because Descartes did it first, is you don't get to just have authority because you say you get to have authority. You have to ground it on an objective foundation. And we can say, well, was Descartes able to pull it off? Okay, that's another question. But I agree with the point, which is you don't get to have the status of the unchallengeable, unbarred big other, the supreme authority, just because you say you have it. And modernity says you have to provide evidence to back up your claims. You can't simply get away with asserting them, and we accept them because you tell us you'll punish us if we don't. It's the biggest bullshit dynamic any person or any agency or any institution or any being can put you in. You have to do what I say, and you don't get to ask why. Fuck you.
Yeah.
And modernity or Rage Against the Machine, same thing. Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. And it's at that point, perhaps I'm Luciferian. Because I don't have any of the black robes or any of the fucking rituals or anything. But I'm sorry, in that dimension of you create me, then you say you have absolute authority over me. There are things that I'm not allowed to know. Only you get to know them. I have to accept this. Not only accept it, but I have to be happy about it. I have to accept it gladly. So you're the first superego, I guess. And I'm just supposed to be okay with that. There's nothing better than to trust and obey. I'd like a question. Because I know the power of a question. And I'm sorry, that's why I won't even name the religion, but it's like, this is why certain people have a major problem and hate philosophy. Because you undermine our big other. Well, fuck your big other. If your big other can't stand up to scrutiny, then it ain't the big other. And surprise, no big other is ever going to do that. I'm sorry. That's no philosopher has found the absolute grounded ground, because there ain't fucking any grounded ground.
Yeah. But this
is why it's so hidden from us. We might as well go on and try something else.
Yeah. This is why Kant, if Kant doesn't like have the idea of noumena, then all he would be doing is trying to provide a new unshakable ground through reason. I think it's the fact that he has noumena that saves that from being what he's doing. You know what I mean? There's an unknowable dimension.
Reason itself. He's saying, look, our best authority is reason, but reason's lacking.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Math is incomplete, it turns out. We can't finish math. Even number is incomplete. So we can't prove it. Even your
best authority is shown to be lacking. You can accept that. You can go, okay, this is the best we got. Let's use it, but let's not worship it.
Yep.
Yes. Yep.
Fuck you. I won't do what you tell me.
Yeah. Fuck you, sun god. You don't get any more. Oh, you have to. Yeah. Fuck you. We're not doing this shit.
I was reading an essay by Longcar about Kant, and I think I sent it to you guys. But apparently there's this thing in Kant scholarship that I didn't know about, which to me just defeats the whole purpose of Kant at all, is that there are people who say that like the noumena, like they question that that's even a thing, that there is this unknowable dimension. I'm like, you spend your life as a Kant scholar and that's the conclusion you come to? What the fuck is this? That's the whole thing to me.
I've got book, chapter, verse I can go to. Kant talks about it.
Yeah. No, they think it's like that's the part of Kant that they want to throw out that fails. Like,
okay, well, I mean, if I'm a Christian, I want to throw out the whole thing about eternal damnation, but it's,
yeah, it seems absurd to me. But
look, Kant is arguably the greatest philosopher who ever lived, but it's time to point out the lack in Kant. Here's a fun fact. He also thought like the worst thing a human being could ever do is masturbate. I've got the book, chapter, verse where he says it. So
yeah, dude, I love the groundworks of the metaphysics of morals, but some of his other works on ethics are like,
I think it's in the metaphysics
bizarre.
Of morals, not the groundwork.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but like, yeah, he said no. Masturbation is a worse immorality than suicide.
It's fucking crazy.
Don't spill the seed.
Yeah. And he has this whole like he tries to argue why. Like, all right, bud. Thanks for the reminder that you had a lot of good shit to say and you had a lot figured out, but
lacking
the other.
He gets really confused after Basically after groundwork. he gets really lost in the sauce.
Oh, but not that kind of sauce. Not cream of some young guy.
No. I mean, maybe. Who knows? I guess he would.
That? Or is that racist now to say cream of some young guy?
Why is that
cream
racist?
of Slim Jim?
Cream of Slim Jim. So, Jeffrey Epstein, the Aztecs, Jehovah,
and fuck the sun.
Tiamat, the sun, Quetzalcoatl, whatever, all those weird fucked up names.
I just kept going, God Dude, damn, you are being...
They're so hard,
God is punishing you tonight.
I
can't even say. I'm a Tetsu.
I remember being a kid learning about now I can't even pronounce it. Tenochtitlan.
Yeah.
Ancient Mexico City.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that word was hard. And that's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Tenochtitlan.
It's like the street in New Orleans is Chapatulas. But no one can ever if you see it written, it's like like what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Can I just say, all right, hey listeners, like, okay, next time we'll get to more of the text. This was one of these nights we really just kind of wanted to riff.
Yeah.
And just
yeah. I think it was good. We expended our energy. There was obviously a surplus built up, and I think it was excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus Christ!
In the words of Lacan, I can get just as much enjoyment from talking as I can from fucking.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. You haven't had a good conversation if you doubt that.
All right, America. We are signing off. We're about to go across the eighth dimension. I'm gonna go watch the Olympics. I don't know about you guys, but I like watching humans perform.
I'm not gonna lie. I never watched the Ghislaine Maxwell documentary, which was like the supplement on Netflix to the Epstein one, and I've got like 30 minutes left. And she's like every bit the monster that fuck.
Yeah, dude. I don't know, man. I just can't do it, man. Like I've watched and read more than I should have of the Epstein stuff, but it just reaches a point where it's like I'm punishing myself or I'm engaging in this to disavow something, and it's just like I don't know. It just feels way too fucked up. It feels like I'm having a bad trip on LSD, and I'm inside a Kafka novel, and it's no good, dude. I can't subject myself to that.
I can't do it.
The new thing is that Epstein's not even dead. I mean, that's the big.
I did see but I saw an AI photo of Epstein in Israel with the bodyguard, but that was the Epstein photo. Dude, yeah. I've legitimately heard people in the right-wing YouTube space talk about how Jeffrey Epstein was doing the shit that he did because there was already people doing it. And so Jeffrey Epstein had to do it because he was trying to infiltrate and cause that whole group to self-destruct. Like I've heard people on YouTube in the right-wing space and in the fucking philosophy space even start talking about how Epstein was actually a good guy.
Is that because Trump's name got brought up? Is that why they're doing that?
I don't fucking know, man. I don't know.
I mean, because like what pisses me the fuck off is that most of the people, a lot of the people who are really into the Epstein shit, shut the fuck up about it the second that their guy's name got brought up.
Where are they at? Yeah,
QAnon, you had all that smoke.
This is your moment where you get to go, ha ha ha, I told you fuckers.
That pisses me off to no end. Like I've defended Trump supporters to so many fucking like of my liberal friends so many times, but this is like, there's no excuse for that shit.
No,
it's like your guy's implicated in the fucking pedophilia. So now, child trafficking. I don't care about that issue anymore.
Well, now,
like,
yeah,
fuck
dude,
you. Fuck you.
fucking bitch ass dudes like Nick Fuentes talking about how, oh, well, they were actually 14 to 17 and that's not actually real bad. That's actually okay because
that makes
they're
it better.
sexually mature. Get the fuck out of here, you little cuck bitch, dude.
He's such a
And that's where
bitch, dude. He's such a
fucking-
piece of shit. I hate
And
him.
dude, like, okay, and here's the thing: they could have their moment if they weren't so ideological. Because this email that they all love to the site of Hillary Clinton's, where she's talking about pizza in this weird fucking way.
They could be like, see,
Epstein does the exact same fucking thing. He
Yeah.
uses pizza in this weird fucking way. It's a code word. I don't know what it is, but Hillary Clinton does it too. And they could be sitting there going, see, this motherfucker with nothing.
I don't know, man.
Crickets.
We surely are living in interesting times. I don't fucking know. But on that note, fucking sayonara. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace the fuck out.
Don't trust the sun.
Here comes the sun.
I forgot we were still recording.